Jin So-woon had one of the most absurd talents a martial artist could possibly possess. He could remember almost anything after seeing it once. Sword techniques, secret manuals, battle reports. Eventually, Jin memorized so much knowledge that his mind contained practically an entire library of the Murim Alliance. There was just one problem. Jin himself was weak. While geniuses around him became powerful martial artists, Jin spent his life remembering techniques his body could never properly use. And when war finally consumed Murim, that weakness cost him everything. His junior brothers died one after another. His sect was sacrificed as cannon fodder. And after Jin had finished memorizing the Alliance's most valuable secrets, the very people he served decided that someone carrying that much knowledge was too dangerous to leave alive. So Jin died wishing for one thing. If heaven had given him another chance, he wouldn't waste his life merely remembering the strength of other people. He would become strong enough to protect everyone himself. Then Jin opened his eyes. Years in the past, his weak body had returned. His friends were alive again, but so had every single memory the Murim Alliance desperately wanted buried with him. Thousands of martial arts, hidden weaknesses of famous techniques, locations of treasures that haven't been discovered yet, and knowledge of a future where everyone Jin loves is destined to die. In his first life, Jin's perfect memory made him useful. In his second, it's going to make him a monster. But before Jin could rewrite the future, his first life had to come to an end. Under the guise of a blue moon, a man congratulates the captain of the Sojong unit, Jin So-woon. His memory is truly amazing. Thanks to him, they have restored all the records of the Murim Alliance. He has his deepest gratitude. This is the leader of the Murim Alliance, Taeeul Divine Sword Yongseoe. Jin notes that he memorized them because he was told to, and he restored them because he was ordered to. Yet his reward is that of a dog's death. Yongseoe slowly pulls out his blade, having heard that he even memorized the archives of Sim Hyon Pavilion, where the Alliance's highest secrets are kept. If someone like Jin were to collude with the demonic cult, or be captured and tortured for information, the Alliance would be in danger. For the justice of the martial world and the Alliance's safety, Jin must disappear from this world, along with all of his memories. Jin scoffs. Greater good, huh? He slowly begins to get up and tells him that the Alliance has already been defeated. He's barely clinging to life after fleeing from the demonic cult, yet he thinks there is more danger to fear from someone with barely any martial prowess. How surprising. Yongseoe's expression doesn't falter, as he tells him that the Alliance will defeat the demonic cult and restore their foundation. Jin continues, noting that the same Alliance that sacrificed countless people as shields while fleeing to the North Sea somehow claims it will restore itself. He would really like to see how they uphold the glorious greater good they preach so much about. But seeing that the Alliance values the greater good more than human lives, he can hardly tell which side is the demonic cult and which is the Murim Alliance. Before Yongseoe can accuse him of being tainted by corrupted energies, Jin throws himself off the cliff, noting that he regretted entrusting his fate, and the fate of the Taeeul Sect, to the Alliance's filthy hands. At the very least, his death will be something he does, something he chooses. He continues falling from the cliff, remembering everything that made his life a living hell. When the war between the Alliance and the cult began, he and his junior brothers, warriors of a small sect, were drafted into the war. However, the cult was strong, and the Alliance was weak. Eventually, the Alliance decided to flee to the North Sea, and they were used as shields to buy time for the leaders of the Alliance to escape. The Alliance, having fled to the North Sea, came to him with a proposal to memorize every record of the Alliance. In exchange, they would pull his Taeeul Sect brothers from the battlefield, so he memorized them desperately. However, maybe now that he thinks about it, he should have gone to the battlefield instead of the library. If he had, perhaps he could have sacrificed himself to help even one more person escape. Perhaps he should have practiced his martial arts harder before all of this. Now, with regret in his mind, he wonders why the heavens bestowed such a useless ability upon him. If they're going to give him something, they should have given him something better. With deep regret, he thinks that he should have become strong enough to save his junior brothers, instead of begging others for protection. He should have had the power to protect them himself. He should have become an unforgettable genius martial artist. As the light fades from his vision, a new light is born. He is under the sun in a familiar place, with someone telling him to get up and nudging him with a wooden sword, calling him a pathetic loser. Even his junior brothers who lost lasted longer than this. Jin slowly gets up, believing that this is a cursed memory. Even now, it's making him remember pain, as well as that his entire body hurts like hell. However, that's when he realizes where he is. This place is the Taeeul Sect training ground. In front of him are his junior brothers, filling him with emotion. He rushes in and hugs two of them, junior sister Hong and Gyung Pyo, both of whom wonder what he's doing and whether something happened. Everyone is here as well, his fellow disciples of the Taeeul Sect. He now believes that this is a flashback before death. He thinks this memory is not even allowing him the reprieve of death, but this part is actually nice. The two he hugged wonder what the hell is going on, and Jin begins poking Hong on the cheek. She was really cute when she was young. Even now, he misses how she nagged him. There was Gyung Pyo, who was a bedwetter when they were young, which was pretty annoying. If he could go back, he would wash the blankets with him 1,000 times over. As he continues mindlessly cheering, Cheol-yong appears behind him and wonders if Jin is acting crazy because he's scared to fight. If he doesn't pick up his blade, now his precious little juniors will have to take his place. Jin's expression sours as he realizes he can't avoid the fight. This flashback shows him only the good parts. This is a little cruel. Out of all people, why did it have to be him? This is Cheol-yong, the pampered young master of the Girong Merchant Guild, who joined the Taeeul Sect with a pretty large donation. He's relying on his father's wealth and power, and he used duels as an excuse to beat their disciples half to death. They couldn't even fight back, feeling that the funding would stop, so they just had to take the hits. But now, if this is what they want, if the heavens are granting him a chance to beat him up, even in flashback, he cannot refuse. Should he get some revenge for the past? Cheol-yong gets annoyed and immediately rushes in, calling him an arrogant bastard. However, Now Jin can see his footwork clearly, as this is the sword art he suffered from so many times in his past life, the Three Shadow Sword. It's a martial art the Gyeorong Merchant Guild had him learn privately from Hyun Won-soo, a famous wandering ronin. True to the style of a ronin, its forms are rough, and its aura is fierce. Since he deliberately targets the eyes, the young disciples of the Taeeul Sect were completely helpless. The old him memorized the forms and patterns the moment he saw them, but back then he did not have the ability to dodge or counterattack. However, compared to those demonic cult bastards he's fought again and again, and compared to every single technique he desperately memorized in the library, this much is nothing. It's child's play. Cheol-yong tries to rush in again after his missed attack, but Jin rushes in first, using the Lesser Heaven sword art, the first basic form, to completely overwhelm Cheol-yong, who is shocked that he is using that. Jin stands behind him and above him, absolutely ecstatic to have the chance to beat him up, as this is incredibly satisfying. He smacks him across the head with incredible force, leaving everyone stunned for a moment. Cheol-yong speaks in a low, deadly tone, asking how he dares to use that trashy Lesser Heaven sword art to crack his head open. As the heir of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, he hopes Jin can handle the consequences. He says this as he charges in, only to immediately fall unconscious, leaving Jin a little confused. With his victory, his senior brother and sisters immediately begin to cheer, glad that their senior brother had actually won. Jin can't believe he would get to thrash this bastard before he dies. The heavens have granted him a mercy. He has no more regrets in this life, but he really doesn't want to wake up from this flashback. Suddenly though, Hong punches him straight in the cheek and asks if he's lost his damn mind. What if the Gyeorong Merchant Guild cut their funding? Does he think the rest of them let Cheol-yong hit them because they're idiots? Jin doesn't even hear her, as he realizes that his cheek hurts, and wonders, is this really not a flashback? Hong gets even more annoyed and uppercuts him hard, making him fall down, and his soul almost leave his body, as he realizes that he's actually returned to the past. Later Jin is in the infirmary. When he opened his eyes he was lying in this bed. While he was at it, he decided to rehearse everything that had happened. It all started with the resurrection of the demonic cult. The Murim Alliance fought against them, but was destroyed after losing that war. Since their Taeeul Sect belonged to the Alliance, they were on the brink of extinction. In the midst of that, thanks to his really good memory, he was tasked with memorizing and restoring every single book that the Alliance owned. He pleaded with them, telling them that he could memorize more. He would take every book and document in the Murim Alliance, and without missing a single character, would record them inside his head. In exchange, they should spare his sick disciples from the front lines, but instead, they claimed his memory could hinder their future. He thought he died then, but when he opened his eyes, he was back in the past. Thanks to the memories of the secret manuals inside of his head, he beat down Cheol-yong, someone he could have never defeated before. But he wonders what the hell is happening. Come to think of it, his body and clothes have returned to how they were back then, but this blue dragon bracelet followed him to the past. He got it through one of their victories during the countless battles against the demonic cult. More specifically, after defeating the cult's Law King, they got this blue dragon bracelet. He remembers this bracelet suddenly glowing as he drew his last breath in his previous life. But why is that? Could this bracelet be related to it? Suddenly, he hears a voice rising just outside the infirmary door, demanding that the brat Jin be handed over this instant. He needs to see the punk who cracked his son's head open. The sect leader apologizes, stating it was due to his lack of supervision, so he should speak to him instead of Jin. The merchant master wonders if they've forgotten that Cheol-yong is the heir of their merchant guild. Even if he is temporarily training here, they survive on their guild's sponsorship. Or shall he cut off their funding starting this month? The sect leader acknowledges this, stating that of course, they are always grateful for the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's kindness. But seeing as Jin also collapsed, it seems Cheol-yong hit him just as hard, so they will discipline Jin strictly. The sect leader asks him to just let it slide this once. Jin recognized the silhouette of Cheol-yong's father, so he listened closely. It is Yeon Seok, the leader of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild. He tells the sect leader to make sure that Jin is properly punished, as a country bumpkin seems to have forgotten his place. This is why the Taeeul Sect is in such a state. Jin, hearing those words and remembering everything that happened with all of his junior brothers dying one after another before he died too, snaps the chewing stick he had and gets up, as now it's time to start some real trouble. After their talk, the sect leader sees the leader of the guild out, who scoffs and says he will let it slide just this once. Suddenly Jin appears above him, noting that he heard he was looking for him quite desperately. He is here then, the lowly country bumpkin, Jin So-woon. His almost grandpa-like bow takes Yeon Seok and his servant by surprise. Yeon Seok sours his face, noting that he's the one who hurt his son, Cheol-yong. What a damn punk. Jin sighs as he gets down from the fence, as being called a punk is a bit much. They're not even that far apart in age. Jin realizes what he said, forgetting that he actually regressed, and puts his hands together, noting that he's making such a fuss over a single hit to the head during a duel. When senior brother Cheol-yong enters the Murim Academy, does he plan on following him there and making a scene? Yeon Seok asks how he dares to be so brazen. He used an excuse to crack his son's head open with tricks. Besides, Cheol-yong has no need to train in a place like this sect. The sect's only job is to serve him until he enters the Murim Academy. Jin sighs with an almost paternal expression, noting that more than 10 of his junior brothers were beaten so badly they couldn't get up for days. And since they're talking about duels, he wants to say one more thing too. If his skills are so poor that he lost to a lowly country bumpkin from a third-rate sect, he will never be able to enter the Murim Academy. Yeon Seok starts to quiver with rage, and grabs Jin by the collar of his GI, noting that if the Gyeorong Merchant Guild cuts off its sponsorship to the Taeeul Sect, can Jin take responsibility for the consequences? Is that why he's so arrogant? The Taeeul Sect may be a part of the 108 Peaks, but it's just a third-rate sect that's on its way to ruin. Yeon Seok could easily negotiate with any other sect if he wished, but if he does, the Taeeul Sect will have to worry about how they will get their next meal. Jin remembers the 108 peaks. It's a term referring to the top 108 sects of the Murim Alliance. The Taeeul Sect is one of them. In other words, it's a third-rate sect that lost its former glory, and only has that title left. Regardless, there is one privilege granted to these 108 peak sects, and that is during the entrance exam. Each sect can recommend one disciple for special admission without any sort of testing. In other words, Taeeul Yong is the heir of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, not a member of the 108 peaks. But to get into the Murim Alliance through that special admission, his father paid them a massive sponsorship fee. That is why he joined their insignificant sect as a lay disciple. However, Jin now tells him to go ahead. He will take full responsibility, so he should go ahead and cut them off. But he is curious. With less than a year left for the special admissions screening, why did he choose this place out of all of the 108 peak sects? Huh? Why did he send his precious son to such a pathetic and lowly place? Surely it's not because everyone else rejected him. Yeon Seok gets incredibly annoyed, but he can't really argue. In his past life, Jin catered to the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's every whim. They actually recommended Taeeul Yong and got him into the Murim Academy. Yeon Seok shoves Jin away, asking if he doesn't realize the Murim Alliance doesn't give a damn about his sect. He should remember that only their merchant guild can save them. Jin approaches, as he knows that after Taeeul Yong entered the academy, the merchant guild eventually cut off their support anyway. He tells Yeon Seok that he should remember that only the Taeeul Sect can save them. With that, he walks away, as begging others for protection is useless. They must have the strength to protect themselves, because that is what he learned from already dying once. However, he really hasn't thought that far yet about how he will even do it. Jin decides to take a little walk inside a very wavy cavern, as right now, he only has one goal: to become strong. It's hard to become strong with just their inefficient cultivation method and lesser heaven sword art, so there is only one way left: gaining overwhelming internal energy through an elixir. He is aiming for the legendary elixir, the 10,000-year Fire Ginseng. He got this from the record of Zhonghu Elixirs, one of the Murim Alliance's secret documents. It detailed the location, timing, and even the movement patterns of every elixir. Every single bit of that information is now inside his brain. The plan is to recall those records and hunt down every single elixir for himself. However, the problem is this gatekeeper. He has to steal it, as obtaining the 10,000-year Fire Ginseng is the first step. Using their useless lesser heaven sword art, he will take down the beast in one strike, but he throws his blade away, as that will never happen. His internal energy and sword technique are both pathetic. He shouldn't bother wasting his strength. He picks up a torch, as later in life he came to realize something. After cramming hundreds of thousands of books inside of his mind, he learned that exceptional swordsmanship is not the be-all and end-all. The way of the sword? Martial arts? He doesn't really care about any of that. Winning is all that matters. And now he burns the Spider Guardian using that torch. He is actually really grateful to the Murim Alliance bastards, as he was really naive back then. Eventually, the spider beast stands defeated, and Jin consumes the ginseng. However, he screams that it is clearly not enough. He ate a whole rare herb, yet his internal energy only grew so much. He can't believe he absorbed so little of such a high-quality elixir. The Taeeul mind method really is extremely flawed, as his dantian basically grew by a hair's width. At this rate, against the events to come, he will not be able to protect the sect. Once the Great War begins, low-ranking warriors are used as meat shields. In this life, he must ensure the disciples of the sect do not die in vain. To do that, he must become a key figure in the Murim Alliance before the war even begins. That's the only way to save the Taeeul Sect. The first step was entering the Murim Academy within a year, but at the rate he's going, he won't even be able to get in. If this continues, nothing will change. He needs to think. He needs more internal energy. An elixir, but that's when he remembers that the Snow Plum elixir theft hasn't happened yet, so there is still a chance, because people always leave a trace behind and he can definitely find it. He must. Using the library in his mind, he opens the Murim Alliance Hefei branch monthly report. If he looks closely, there is a clue somewhere in his memories. He begins searching through his memories and compiling the records he remembers, using deduction to narrow them down to 3 names: the soul-chasing wanderer Chu Honggak, Gu Il-mu, and Jang Honggi. He closes the book in his mind and says that, acting as a walking library, he's finally paying his dues. He'll be taking that Snow Plum elixir for himself. As he pulls his blade out of the beast, the blue dragon bracelet suddenly begins to glow. A dark, vivid energy shoots from it toward the beast's core, consumes it, and then flows back into Jin, allowing him to absorb the human-faced spider's inner core. This creates a show of beautiful light inside of the cavern, and afterwards Jin can definitely feel a difference. He can't help but laugh, unable to believe this. This is a trophy from a battle he barely won in his past life. The blue dragon bracelet, a relic of the blood-sucking weird demon, a guardian Dharma king of the demonic cult. He kept it to honor the victory and the sacrifice. Now it's suddenly activating again. He unleashes a devastating punch into the nearby wall to test his power, because he has purified the wicked energy of the spider's inner core. The purified energy is naturally merging with the mind method. As a result, his dantian has grown considerably. Elsewhere, Taeeul Yong brags to Hong that this elixir, in Mount Hua at least, is the best for increasing energy after the Purple Cloud elixir. Even in their sect, only the true disciples can hope to get even one of them. That's how precious it is, and his father obtained that remedy just for him. Hong couldn't really care less. She's thinking about Jin, wondering where he is and what he's doing. Jin left the sect after that incident. He probably thought he was being considerate, since Yeon Seok kept coming by, but that's a foolish choice. She calls him a dummy and an idiot in her mind. Before Taeeul Yang can brag any further, the other Taeeul Sect kids push past him left and right, making him end up on the ground as they come to Hong with a bunch of food, telling her to try it, as it is amazing. Taeeul Yang decides to sulk off. Hong tells the disciples that they should be in the dining hall. Why did they bring the food all the way here? They should go ahead and eat. They must be hungry since they only had one meal yesterday. However, they all realize that she was thinking about senior brother Jin again, wasn't she? She always gets quiet when she thinks about him, even though she's usually the loudest one. Hong blushes at their pretty childish observations, as they are accurate, and their thoughts immediately shift. Now they are thinking about Jin too, noting that they should save some rice cakes and meat for him. Hong, seeing this, decides to push them, taking a bite of each and telling them that if they don't eat now, she's going to take it all for herself. The juniors immediately begin munching on their food, but her mind is still on Jin, wondering where he is, and why he left these kids behind. He really is an idiot. The banquet of the Merchant Guild continues in full swing until the night arrives. Everyone gets pretty pissed drunk. Women dance around in celebration. At that point, the thief has already struck, taking the elixir and getting out of the general area. He can't believe it. He actually got the famous elixir of the Mount Hua sect. The Great Gyeorong Merchant Guild's secret vault wasn't all that much either. This is the soul-chasing wanderer Chu Honggak. He opens it and can't believe it. He shakes with glee. With this elixir, he will have enough internal energy to master the divine palm of the mad heavens. This is a true victory for him. Before he can think of getting out of there, however, someone arrives and decapitates him on the spot, ending his life before he even realized what was going on. The man picks up the bloody elixir, apologizing for this, but just like him, he needs this quite a bit. Well, he stole it first. A few days before the snow plum elixir theft, Jin went to a hunting shop, which had all sorts of things like traps and bows. He came here because he heard the shopkeeper had merchandise that was hard to find. He asked if he happened to sell traps. The trapper put a knife through a bunny and noted that Jin was rather interesting. The trapper explained that this was the best hunter supply store in all of Hefei, and that they had traps for everything from rabbits to mountain lions. Jin handed him a sack of coins and told him to give him some tiger and bear traps. The trapper didn't know why, since hunting with those would ruin the pelt, but Jin told him it didn't matter. He just needed something sensitive enough to trigger if a single hair falls on it. Powerful enough to snap a bear's leg too. Actually, he should go with something that sends them straight to hell maybe. The trapper at that moment felt like he really didn't want to be selling traps to this guy, but business is business. Gu Ilmu looks at the stolen elixir, taking off his bandana. Gu Ilmu had heard Chu Honggak was famous in the martial world, so he thought the man would be more memorable, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Zhang Hanggi arrives, noting that this is to be expected of his senior brother, and that it was too easy. This is Zhang Hanggi of the Five Swords of Dian Kong, and the one who killed the other thief is Gu Ilmu, another member of the Five Swords of Dian Kong. He notes that they were worrying about nothing. First, they need to dispose of the body. For now, the soul-chasing wanderer needs to stay missing. That is the plan. Before that though, Hanggi notes that they should take a look at this precious snow plum elixir. They both look at it, shocked by how pretty it is. Ilmu notes that he can already feel that rich scent of plum blossoms. This is definitely the snow plum elixir they have been looking for. Jin looks at it too. Two mouths to feed, but there's only one snow plum elixir. How are they going to get over that? Suddenly, the other two realize that there's someone behind them, and Jin immediately retreats with the elixir as they try to strike. Ilmu tells Hanggi to go and catch that thief right now. Hanggi charges in, telling Jin to consider this his punishment for coveting what is beyond him. Jin begins to run away, calling them thieves. Is this what they teach at Dian Kong? They are the ones who stole it first. The two rush in to strike down Jin, but as they make their way to a leafier area, Jin stops and dodges one of Hanggi's attacks just in time. Jin tells him to watch his step as a bear trap clamps down on Hanggi's leg. Hanggi slowly realizes what happened as the pain hits him and he screams. Ilmu rushes at Jin, who notes that he told them to watch their steps beforehand, but they really didn't want to listen to him, huh? Ilmu grits his teeth, not knowing who this cowardly bastard is. But to think a swordsman would resort to such petty tricks. He should take off that mask and reveal himself in this instant. Jin picks up a rock and scoffs at his suggestion. Does he want the usual, perhaps? Perhaps he should tell him his sect, his master, and his name. Is that what he's asking for? That's really old-fashioned. The heavy stone lands right in front of Ilmu, and another trap springs up just as sharp as the last one, making Ilmu wince. Jin reveals that he is merely the new owner of the snow plum elixir, and asks if they are the two assassins who murdered Chu Honggak on his way to prison. How did he know who the real killers were? He found out something strange while reviewing the records. From the moment the snow plum elixir was stolen, all traces of Chu Honggak had vanished. Furthermore, no new rising experts appeared who seemed to have consumed that pill. He looked up records of every martial artist who showed even the slightest increase in internal energy during that time, and he caught this trail. The odds were high that Chu Honggak was murdered and buried, assuming at least two people split and consumed the snow plum elixir. Those who gained a sudden boost in energy for no apparent reason would be the culprits. Were these two Ilmu and Hanggi of the Five Swords of Dian Kong? Ilmu asks how he knows, but Jin wonders how he could not know about two of the Five Swords of the Dian Kang sect. Ilmu wonders if, knowing that, Jin is not afraid of the wrath of the Dian Kang sect and the entire Murim Alliance. Jin is surprised he didn't know a thief could report another thief for stealing his loot. Hanggi has had enough of these petty tricks and charges up a mighty punch before crashing it into the ground, making all of the traps spring up in the air, or most of them. Hanggi seems satisfied with the result, while Jin deems it a shame, as he didn't really expect those traps to be sprung so soon. Hanggi gets up, noting that he will rip that mask off and tear off his limbs, with Ilmu congratulating his junior brother. Seeing this, Jin begins to run away again, and the others immediately get after him. Hanggi tells his senior brother to watch out. He's heading towards the leaves again. The area must be full of traps, but Ilmu says, take the exact steps he took, which is a brilliant and foolish move. They begin doing just that, inching closer and closer. They laugh as it seems that his little party trick will not work anymore. With one last push, Jin gets out of the leafy area. The two immediately celebrate, thinking they have grasped the situation and that this is the end of Jin's life. They both step just beside Jin's footprints, and Jin can't help but smile maniacally as the traps spring up on their running legs, catching them. They fall down, the other traps embedding themselves in them as well, incapacitating them for good. Jin is actually surprised. He thought they were smarter than he anticipated, trying to move by only following his footsteps. They almost did have it, but unfortunately there is one thing they missed. Among these dense traps, they had to step exactly where he did, with absolute precision, without making a single error. Ilmu believes that would be impossible if Jin set the traps that close together to begin with. How in the heavens was he able to move so accurately? Jin pulls out his blade and notes that it's because of his memory, which is the only gift heaven ever granted him. With that, he takes the lives of these two thieves. And somewhere else the topic of the Taeeul Sect of Hefei comes up. The chief strategist of the Murim Alliance, Jagal Somyong, wonders if they were one of the 108 peaks. The elder of the Murim Alliance, Namgung Tae, the only one from a collateral line of the Namgung clan, says that he is correct. However, many powerful sects have emerged in Hefei in recent years. It is about time the alliance replaces it with a new peak. Jagal wonders if it's a sect expanding its influence in Hefei. He must be talking about the Iron Sword Sect. He supposes the rumor circulating within the alliance was true after all. Taewon is backing the Iron Sword Sect. He went to great lengths to procure these tea leaves for him. He hopes they are to his liking. Jagal tells him that he should know the rules. A sect of the 108 peaks is not easily replaced unless it commits a great offense. Is he telling him that the Taeeul Sect has done something wrong? Taewon sheepishly tells him that the word is that the Taeeul Sect is using their special admission rights to run a business. Jagal puts his cup down and wonders if he's saying that the Taeeul Sect is using their privileges to satisfy their own greed, something he finds unacceptable. Taewon pleads with him not to misunderstand. He is not bringing this up because he wants to take the spot in the 108 peaks. However, did the Murim Alliance not grant the 108 peaks privileges to honor those who fought together during their darkest times? He's simply finding it heartbreaking, as a member of the alliance himself, to see these values starting to fade. That night, somewhere in an inn, Jin has just finished cultivating after taking the pill. He clenches his fist. The Snowplum elixir certainly does live up to its name. He's gained over 30 years worth of internal energy, so he has finally surpassed the internal energy of even his past life. After getting dressed, he descends from his room and grabs the server's attention, who's been dozing off. The server is glad to see that Jin is finally out. Jin hadn't come out for 30 days, after all, and the server thought something had happened to him. Jin just sits down and tells him to bring him something edible. The server is a little confused, as the kitchen is already closed. Jin puts a bunch of coins on the table, noting that he will make it worth their while. He will pay for a week's worth of room and board in advance too. Immediately, the server goes to wake up the chef while throwing the money in the air, with Jin thinking that money really does make the world go around. He's glad he used the blue dragon bracelet to secure some funds beforehand, as it did not just work on monsters. It could extract vitality from any living creature, and he could absorb it as his own internal energy. Additionally, he got a bunch of tiger hides, which were a bonus. It's good to have a way to make money. The problem is, though, that the power of the blue dragon bracelet is a dangerous ability that could easily be mistaken for a demonic cult's art. One of the 10 forbidden arts designated by the Murim Alliance is the star-absorbing art, but the bracelet's power is not the same thing. If the Alliance finds out, not just Jin, but everyone in his sect will be in danger, so he will never let them find out. The server soon arrives with a bunch of food, a lot more than Jin expected. As he begins eating, the server doesn't leave, looking around Jin for a bit before asking if he's heard the rumor. The Gairong Merchant Guild had a banquet recently to celebrate obtaining a precious elixir. However, they say that the elixir was stolen right in the middle of the banquet. To steal it from such a crowded place without anyone noticing, that thief must have been a real pro. Anyway, the Murim Alliance even sent an investigation team to catch the culprit. Jin chokes on his noodles, and the server hands him some water, but he says he's fine, and tells the server to continue talking. What about the Murim Alliance? Jin is starting to overthink. Perhaps they found some evidence or caught someone. If they caught someone, that's a huge problem. He is the real culprit, which means they will arrest an innocent person. However, the server tells him that they said the trail went cold almost immediately, so they couldn't find the culprit. Jin sighs in relief internally, but externally he nods with ancient wisdom, and notes that the owner must be devastated. The server agrees. The banquet ended early too, so they lost a lot of customers because of that. However, another banquet is being held in Hefei soon. Jin wonders if it's the Gairong Merchant Guild again, but the server denies it. It's actually the Iron Sword Sect. The Iron Sword Sect's leader is turning 60 now, so they're throwing a feast for 7 days and nights. It's peak season for them, so they are really looking forward to it. Jin's expression falters immediately, as he remembers it was definitely around this time that the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday banquet took place. In his past life, his father at that same banquet had to kneel before a massive crowd and beg the Iron Sword Sect leader for forgiveness. It was all because of his son. He clenches his fists, as this time he must avoid the Iron Sword Sect at all costs. He thanks the server for the meal and begins walking away, as he won't let his father suffer such humiliation because of him again. He will never allow it. That's what he thought anyway. But why on earth is he at the Iron Sword Sect leader's banquet now? And why is he dueling with his grandson at this very moment? A few days ago at the Taeeul Sect, people were training in earnest. The Gold, Silver, and Bronze brothers, the youngest Dongryong, the second Yunho, and the eldest Gyungpyo, were taking a break. The Silver brother couldn't believe it. 100 vertical strikes in this weather. Is this really going to help with their lesser heaven sword art? Gyungpyo started to laugh, asking what happened to the guy who said he wanted to be cool like his senior brother Jin. The silver brother refused to admit he ever said something like that. He just said he was proud as a fellow disciple because Jin beat up that guy and mastered the lesser heaven sword art. However, the bronze brother wondered where Jin was right now. This is the first time he's been gone for over a week, right? And he didn't even say where he was going. The silver brother guessed he was staying away because he felt awkward about hitting another senior in the head. But Gyungpyo wondered if he left the Taeeul Sect for good because he was worried that the Gyeorong Merchant Guild would retaliate against them. The silver brother said that he was annoying, but he was a good man, talking like Jin was already dead. However, that's when the bronze brother got up, as he saw that senior brother Jin was back. Jin walked through the gates, thinking that if he didn't go to the Iron Sword Sect this time, his father would not have to endure that mockery. But that was just one of the many attempts to humiliate him. After that, the entire Taeeul Sect continued to face constant insults, so there's no need to overthink it. He is not going to the Iron Sword Sect. Not just him. No one from the Taeeul Sect should attend that banquet. To do that, he needs a good excuse. The three rushed to him, with Gyungpyo wondering where on earth he'd been. Jin wondered if they came to welcome him back, touched that all of his juniors came to greet him as they all shouted together. He hoped they'd been well, and that they'd been listening to the hall masters. As everyone gathered around him and caused a commotion, Jin's father arrived, Tai-san, the outer hall master of the Taeeul Sect. Wondering where on earth he'd been wandering off all this time, Jin immediately began tearing up at seeing his father, and Tai-san wondered why he was now running towards him like they were reuniting after a lifetime apart. Jin never thought he would live to see the day he'd want to throw himself into his father's arms. But suddenly Tai-san smacked him in the head and wondered, does he think acting crazy would get him out of cleaning up the mess he made? Because of that stunt he pulled with the merchant group, the entire Taeeul Sect almost ended up on the streets. The hall masters are furious. They're demanding that Tai-san crack his skull open. Cheol-yong appeared as well, seeing that the bastard Jin was back. He'd been waiting for him. What kind of cowardly trick did he use last time? They should have a proper duel. Jin, sensing an opportunity, immediately started acting dazzled. His aura is so radiant that he can't even look at him. The effects of that snow plum elixir must be incredible. How could he ever hope to defeat someone as powerful as him? Naturally, Cheol-yong got flustered and immediately rushed out, telling him that's none of his business. Hong approached Jin and wondered why he was provoking him. Hasn't he heard about the snow plum elixir being stolen? Jin heard. That's exactly why he was saying it. Tae-san asked Hong why this guy was acting so strange lately, but she didn't know either. He was always a bit odd, but this takes the cake. Jin ignored them and began opening the bag he was holding, telling everyone to gather as their senior brother brought something for them, a bunch of sweets. He told them to share them fairly. If he catches anyone being greedy, they will all be in trouble. Tae-san wondered where he got that money, saying that if he had money, he should have brought rice, not snacks. Hong also wondered where he got so much money for such expensive treats, but Jin told her to stop nagging and have some too. Hong's expression suddenly faltered, and she told him to forget it, and just stay home from now on. The Gyeorong Merchant Guild is busy right now with the Snow Plum Elixir incident, and the Iron Sword Sect leader's birthday, so they barely even come to the Taeeul Sect anymore. The sect leader said they don't need to walk on eggshells around them anymore, so instead of trying to carry everything on his own, he should never disappear like that ever again. Her hair swirled as she snapped her head towards him, and Jin was touched. However, he never really walked on eggshells, and he wasn't carrying any burdens either. Anyway, only the Gyeorong Merchant Guild is attending the banquet, right? But Hong told him that the Taeeul Sect is scheduled to attend as well. The sect leader wasn't keen on it, but it would be rude to decline without a good reason. Jin clicked his tongue inside of his own mind, as now he had to find another sort of excuse than the one he was thinking of. Suddenly though, his father turned his back and told him that he would go to the Iron Sword Sect alone. The rest of them would stay here. Jin wondered what happened to him all of a sudden, but before he could give chase, a junior brother handed him a paper that was filled with items, confectionaries and rice cakes. Hong recognized them as the ones they gave out at the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's feast. The junior brother explained that everyone said they were delicious, and he really wanted to eat it with them, so he saved it. But since Jin brought all those expensive treats, he'll probably just throw it away, right? Jin was naturally touched that he saved all of this for him, and immediately grabbed the parchment, eating all of the sweets while telling him that they really are delicious. The junior brother told him that half of those were his, and Jin apologized, saying in exchange he could have his share of the sweets as well. The junior brother was naturally satisfied. Jin turned to Hong. Even if they skip this banquet, the next one and the one after that, the Iron Sword Sect would keep inviting them, right? Hong confirmed as such. If they had something to celebrate, that would be the case. Jin refused to let that happen. They would have to endure endless insults 10 times over, 100 times over. For the kids, that's unacceptable. So they should go to the Iron Sword Sect now. The day of the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday came. The procession towards the Iron Sword Sect was pretty big, with a bunch of merchant guilds and sects arriving at the gates. As Jin walked with his sect, another of the hall masters approached him and told him that there's something he must remember at the Iron Sword Sect, not to act rashly under any circumstances. This was Gang Chae-seok, the hall master of the Joyful Flower Hall of the Taeeul Sect. Jin thought he was looking at him a little too pointedly while saying that. Did he come to the banquet instead of the sect leader just to keep an eye on him? Chae-seok told him to be quiet. He's already acting out, huh? Why did he insist on tagging along all of a sudden? Jin told him that he was being really mean. He wanted to be patient, but what if people kept picking on him? Chae-seok told him to endure that as well. He caused trouble recently and didn't even come home. Is he really going through a second puberty or something? Jin told him that he never used to care whether he came home or not. Why the sudden interest? He spent so much time with his father that his nagging is starting to sound identical to his. Jin looked at his father and saw that he had been awfully quiet ever since they decided to come to the Iron Sword Sect. Chae-seok, seeing that the brat was not answering him, smashed his fist into his head, with Jin asking if he should just sit and take it even when people looked down on their sect and insulted their founder. Chae-seok thought he was talking back, after he changed his diapers when he was a baby. How dare he? As they continued bickering, another sect approached, with someone roughly clearing their throat. He apologized, but said they should step aside so they can pass, as one of their companions is already holding a spot for them at the front of the line. Chae-seok wondered what he was talking about. Is he saying this whole group is going to the front? The man confirmed as such. He just said that their companion is already in line. Chae-seok told him that there's a limit to how shameless he can be, openly cutting the line like that. The boy tried to ask him how he dared to raise his voice in front of him, but another approached. Since they've traveled a long way and they're exhausted, they sent someone ahead. He is Guyang-sa of the Green Bamboo Fortress. Chae-seok, seeing this, told them that they should not make a scene. Why don't they just step aside for a moment? Chaeol-yong's father immediately stepped in front, as the Green Bamboo Fortress was the most prestigious organization in Nanjing, Jiangsu province. He apologized for this bumpkin's rudeness, so they should go on ahead. Jin's eyes narrowed at these bastards. Guyang-sa, the son of the Green Bamboo Fortress leader, in the future becomes a scoundrel who runs around with Chaeol-yong like their sworn brothers. Along with Chaeol-yong, he is the bastard who treated the Taeeul Sect disciples like servants. People naturally started to talk, as their hall master froze stiff just by hearing that name. A pig-like sect leader in a pathetic-looking sect. It's the Taeeul Sect after all. The one sect where everyone wonders how they even made it into the 108 peaks. Hearing them start to talk trash like that, Jin pushed past Chaeol-yong and his father, and wondered where they actually came from. The green bamboo of what? The Jade Bamboo Fort? He's never really heard of them. Could he say that again? Naturally, Sa got mad, but Jin pushed it even further. The Green Bamboo Fortress, was it? He probably heard that name before, but where was it? Oh, now he remembers. It was the name of an outhouse, wasn't it? A heavy silence fell after he said those words, and Sa immediately took out his blade, asking him how he dared to insult the Green Bamboo Fortress. Just before he could swing fully at Jin, a woman approached, wondering what all of this noise was about. The people recognized her as the beautiful wolf sword of the Iron Sword Sect. She wondered if they knew her grandfather's birthday banquet was no place to see blood spilled. This is the beautiful wolf sword of the Iron Sword Sect, Seong Mo-ran. The Iron Sword Sect is a rising sect founded only 150 years ago. They held no grudge against the Taeeul Sect. The problem was that they had settled in the same city, Hefei. There cannot be two suns under just one sky. The Iron Sword Sect was not content with merely expanding, and wanted to take the Taeeul Sect's place among the 108 peaks. Even before his regression, the Taeeul Sect attended the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday banquet. Saryeon, Chaeol-yong and he joined the banquet for people their age. There, he argued with the Iron Sword Sect leader's grandson, the Blood Wolf Iron Sword Seong Mo-hyun. Mo-hyun insulted the Taeeul Sect and challenged him to a duel, knowing Jin would lose. Once his father found out, he knelt and apologized to the Iron Sword Sect leader in front of countless people. Jin noted that if his father did that now, this time would be no different, except he would never let his father bow again. Moran asked once again what the issue was, and Sa immediately deflated, sheepishly trying to explain that it was all this guy's fault. Moran told him that the Iron Sword Sect had no rule about saving places in line, so they should go back and wait. She was late to introduce herself. She's Seong Mo-ran of the Iron Sword Sect. She apologized for what just happened. She looked at Jin, noting that this was hardly compensation, but asking if she could escort the people of the Taeeul Sect and the Gyeorong Merchant Guild. She immediately did so, letting them skip the line. Chaeol-yong fell in step with Moran, having heard that there was a beautiful flower among the wolves of the Iron Sword Sect, but it seems the rumors fall short of her true beauty. Having heard countless variations of this, Moran just thanked him, and told him that the young sect leader was eagerly awaiting the Gyeorong Merchant Guild and the Taeeul Sect, so they should go. Jin looked at her, recognizing her for who she was. Before his regression, Moran had no connection to the Taeeul Sect. Did his actions change something? Or does she have some sort of an ulterior motive? They arrived, but Jin was not there to celebrate. This was definitely not goodwill without a reason. He would have to keep watching for now. They made their way inside of the banquet hall, where everyone was gathered. The Iron Sword Sect leader, Song Chon-wol, was already there, and the person beside him was the young sect leader, Song Ju-tak. The Gyeorong Merchant Guild bastards immediately pushed forward, giving their greetings. Ju-tak told them to drop the formalities, as that would only build walls between them. It seemed that Chaeol-yong was here too. It's been quite some time. Even now, when he thinks of losing a talent like him, he gets so angry he cannot sleep at night. Honestly, if not for the absurd privileges of those 108 peaks, he would have taken him as his disciple. Moran stopped his tirade, and told her father that these were the people of the Taeeul Sect. He should greet them properly. Ju-tak looked at the Taeeul Sect with undisguised indifference. Chae-seok, along with Tae-san, bowed their heads, introducing themselves. Ju-tak had seen them a few times at the Murim Alliance. Tae-san, of course. It's been 20 years since that incident. How has that fellow sect leader Hong been lately? Looking closely, the young lady he brought must be his daughter. Who is the other one? Before Tae-san could even answer, Ju-tak clicked his tongue as he looked at them. Their talent seems pretty disappointing. Are these children really their best prospects? Well, that's what they get for growing up in the Taeeul Sect. They should not waste their energy on useless things and just focus on supporting Chaeol-yong. By supporting him, however, he certainly did not mean teaching him those martial arts. If Chaeol-yong trained hard enough in those martial arts, he would only end up as a third-grade martial artist. Jin scoffed as he noted that Ju-tak looked like a back-alley thug, and he certainly spat out irritating words just like one. Ju-tak naturally got angry, wondering what the hell he was saying right now, and Jin approached, apologizing. He meant to say that in his head, but it slipped out. Ju-tak didn't believe that was a true apology, but Jin thought that it was pretty true. Just now he addressed his junior sister's father and their sect, as if they were old friends. He asked about another sect's achievements, something martial artists should never ask lightly. And lastly, Did he act like he knew the martial arts of their sect? Then he belittled and dismissed them. Why wouldn't he be angry after hearing something like that? Still though, they say one should not be rude even to an arrogant person, so this is clearly his fault. He offered his sincerest apologies. Everyone was amused or bewildered by Jin's actions. Even Moran, who held back a laugh. In turn, Chanwol simply watched as this situation unfolded, and Jin asked Jutak if he would not accept his apology. In response, Jutak gripped his cup roughly and prepared to smash it across Jin's head, but that's when someone came and told him that the Murim Alliance chief strategist has just arrived. He'd finally arrived, so absolutely everyone rushed to greet him, with even Chanwol getting up and telling the servants to bring the prepared gifts at once. Jutak let the situation go, and Hong wondered if they shouldn't go too. Jin refused. Hundreds of people will rush to build ties with the chief strategist anyway. It's 100 times better not to go instead. Naturally, Chaseok immediately got on his case, grabbing him by the collar and asking what the hell he was thinking, speaking that way to the Iron Sword Sect's young sect leader. How many times does he have to tell him to behave? Jin told him to be honest. When Jin was speaking with Jutak earlier, Chaseok saw everything from behind. If Jin hadn't stepped in, Chaseok would have drawn his blade. Jin noted that if he noticed, Jutak certainly did as well. He was probably running his mouth, waiting for someone to draw a blade. He told him not to act recklessly. Can he see that the Iron Sword Sect is trying to provoke them? He should act like a gentleman if he can. And he asked what had even happened 20 years ago. They both looked bitter throughout the whole reception. Chaseok looked at Taisan, who in turn shook his head, so Chaseok stayed silent. Sensing an opportunity, Moran beamed at them and told them that they should talk inside. She'll take them to some good seats. Chaseok immediately agreed, following her pretty robotically. They were taken to a fine VIP seat with a clear view of a beautiful lake, and delicacies they couldn't even dream of eating, making Jin even more suspicious of why she was treating them so well. Moran asked for his name, and Jin told her, but wondered why she wasn't going to see the chief strategist of the Murim Alliance. Moran explained that the Iron Sword Sect's rules don't include women in important matters, so she won't be punished for just not being there. The Iron Sword Sect's young sect leader has 2 children, the Blood Wolf Iron Sword, Seong Mohyun, and the Beautiful Wolf Sword, Seong Moran. Growing up, Mohyun monopolized the Iron Sword Sect's resources because he was considered the one who would eventually inherit the sect. On the other hand, Moran, despite beginning her internal energy training at the late age of 9, is a genius who will later enter the Murim Academy alongside her brother. Jin noted that rumors said the Beautiful Wolf's fangs were sharper than those of the Blood Wolf. Receiving such undeserved treatment from someone like her may actually be good for their sect. Moran was surprised he knew so much about her. Was he perhaps interested in her? Jin noted that he was only sharing rumors he'd heard often, which caused Moran to laugh. Anyway, she also apologized on her father's behalf for what happened earlier. Since they had dealings with the Gyeorong Merchant Guild in the past, he must have reacted differently. He must have acted that way because he deeply regrets losing brother Chaeil-yong. Jin told her that they could take him now if they wanted to. Anyway, there was also something he was curious about. Why did the Iron Sword Sect intend to invite the Taeeul Sect there? Moran gave him a knowing smile and wondered, isn't a banquet more meaningful when more people gather to celebrate? Jin, with his mouth full, he told her that many murders in history happened during banquets too. Moran looked at him for a long moment and got up, noting that Jin is indeed an interesting man, and even if she would like to share a meal with him in order to ease his suspicions, it's time for her to go, so she excuses herself and leaves. As the banquet continued throughout the night, Moran was invited countless times to join people for drinks or for walks or whatever, to the point that she decided to just climb on a roof and stay there as people were looking for her. This is the only place she can breathe after all. To think that there isn't a single decent man among them, let alone a true warrior. Still, that Jin of the Taeeul Sect was quite interesting. His internal energy seemed insignificant, but even before the scion of the Green Bamboo Fortress, even before her father, he never lowered his head and was confident. Is he not afraid of the Iron Sword Sect? Or is he just insane? As she continued munching on her treats, she saw from a distance Hong and Chaeil-yong going somewhere. She wondered where they were going. However, from the men that tried to invite her, she heard that her brother said he would gather only the young disciples for drinks tonight. But why are only those 2 going? Isn't Jin going with them too? She smiled as she found a way to have some fun. She descended from the roof and went to Jin's accommodation, where he asked what she was doing there so late at night. She explained that their Iron Sword Sect has prepared a banquet for the young rising stars to build friendships. She thought it would be wonderful if he could join them. Jin thanked her, but declined. It's been a long day. The other Taeeul Sect disciples and he are mentally exhausted. Moran wondered what he meant by that because she saw the young lady Hong on her way there. Jin immediately began to follow Moran, thinking that before his regression he couldn't hold himself back against Mohyun's provocations. It happened at this very banquet, and it ended up in a duel. As a result, his father and the Taeeul Sect suffered humiliation, just to pretend the duel never even happened. That's why he tried avoiding it this time, but he muttered under his breath that he had no choice but to attend. He can't leave his junior sister alone in a place where the Iron Sword Sect might have set a trap. Moran stopped in her tracks, eyes narrowing, wondering if he really said that the Iron Sword Sect would invite them just to set a trap. Jin turned to her, claiming that she was far too innocent, or her acting skills were even better than her martial arts perhaps. Moran sighed, as, just like this afternoon, he seemed to be showing a massive inferiority complex towards the Iron Sword Sect. Jin was surprised. Could it be that she truly doesn't know what her own people are plotting? She agreed that they considered the Taeeul Sect a thorn in their side, but even so, the Iron Sword Sect did not act like a pack of sick thugs. Jin couldn't help but grin, predicting that at this banquet, her brother Mohyun would create an opportunity to trample over his sect. Even if he did back down, eventually he would turn the Taeeul Sect into a laughing stock. Moran scoffed, as she clearly misjudged him. She thought he would be an upright man who wouldn't tolerate injustice, but he was just a lunatic suffering from a complex. Jin walked inside, also hoping that this was just a delusion of his. Inside, Sa stood in the middle, wondering if this really made sense. that the Taeeul Sect is still part of the 108 Peaks, when an exceptional orthodox sect like the Iron Sword Sect of Hefei is not. Even the most prestigious Girong Merchant Guild is inevitably tied to their sect because of that cursed special admission that the 108 Peaks gets. What a tragedy. Everyone laughed at Hong because she hadn't said a single word in response. She couldn't, because nothing Sa said was wrong. Hong, despite feeling like crap, was kind of glad she was here because that meant senior brother Jin wasn't. However, Sa pushed further than she expected, telling her, "Now, I want to hear the Taeeul Sect's official stance. Stagnant rotten water must be drained for good. Doesn't the sect agree?" Hong froze, clutching her GI until her knuckles turned white. Before she could answer, Jin just plopped in between her and Taeeul, agreeing with that sentiment. As everyone was surprised by his entrance, Sa told Moran that since she was joining the banquet, she should sit by his side. She apologized, but she was only here to escort a guest, and she will be leaving shortly. Taeeul wondered why Moran escorted Jin. Taeeul screamed at him, wondering if he couldn't hear his senior brother talking to him, but Jin wondered where he earned that title. Someone who just sits there with his arms crossed, sipping wine while his sect is insulted and his junior sister is humiliated, is no senior brother. Hong told them to stop fighting and asked Jin why he was here. Jin asked why she was here, and Hong explained that she came because she was worried he'd cause another incident if he attended, but Jin sheepishly told her that he would never do such a thing. He looked around, thinking that while everyone else was busy mocking the Taeeul Sect, two people hadn't even spared a single glance this way. The awakened divine dragon, Nam Gong-san, a member of the Dragon and Phoenix conferences, and one of the hidden dragons of Anhui, and the Blood Wolf Iron Sword Seong Mo-hyun, the host of this banquet. Sa turned to Jin, and noted that it's a pity, but his private conversation with this young lady will have to wait until next time. Sa asked if he was right to assume that Jin So-woon of the Taeeul Sect interrupted his conversation because he intended to answer on her behalf. Jin looked at him, and took a piece of ham, noting that he literally just said that they agree a pond can only stay fresh when water flows in. However, that's under the premise that new water is clean. He should take the Green Bamboo Fortress, for example. A rising power in Anhui like them should have joined the 108 Peaks long ago, right? Why haven't they managed to do it? Sa told him that it was because the existing sects had been currying favor with the Murim Alliance, but Jin didn't think so. It's because of the Green Bamboo's blood incident. 60 years ago, isn't it? Brothers within the Green Bamboo Fortress drew swords against each other for the new position of Castle Master. They shouldn't get him wrong though. They are an excellent and strong sect. However, if he had to fight against the underworld, and was told to trust his back to a group where brothers killed one another, honestly, he would rather be by himself. Even the Murim Alliance would naturally feel uneasy about accepting such an ally. Sa immediately grabbed his collar and smashed his cup, asking how he dared to dishonor the name of their Green Bamboo Fortress. That's when Mo-hyun got up and asked what he was doing. Sa immediately became sheepish, trying to explain himself, but Mo-hyun sidestepped him and talked to Jin, telling him that showing such great disrespect to a guest who came here by invitation is the same as insulting the Iron Sword Sect, isn't it? Moran intervened, asking what he was talking about. Wasn't it the Green Bamboo Fortress that started this fight? Mo-hyun told her to stay out of this, as he clearly saw this fool derail a constructive discussion. Hong immediately thought that if Jin lost his temper there was no turning back and tried to apologize, but Jin apologized before she could. He got up, noting that it seems he has ruined this pleasant banquet. He has no excuse for it. Naturally, he shocked Moran, and Jin continued. He also apologized to the young Master Sa for recklessly mentioning his sect's affairs. He was too hasty. He will take his leave now, so he should calm his anger and enjoy the rest of his banquet. With that, he walked towards the door, telling Hong to follow, but that's when Jin's prediction came true, as Mo-hyun told him to wait. He insulted the great guest of the Iron Sword Sect in their own home. If they let him go unscathed, what would become of his reputation as a disciple of the Iron Sword Sect, and the grandson of the sect leader? He could not let this matter go, so he challenged Jin to a duel. Jin knew there was no use trying to avoid it. He began to laugh, as it was useless to struggle against something like this that was destined to happen. He looked at Moran with unabashed scorn, as it seemed. After all, his prediction came true. Jin went back with Hong, and Chai Seok was livid to hear that he actually accepted the duel. How on earth would he plan to handle the consequences? He shouldn't have gone to that banquet in the first place. Jin told him that if he hadn't, Mo-hyun would have challenged Hong, and if he's going to scold someone, it should be Cheol-yong for dragging her to a place like that. Hong said that Jin was right, but he still should have restrained himself. Does he think that Mo-hyun is an easy target just because he beat Cheol-yong? Does he really think their techniques will work against the Iron Sword Sect? If he happens to get hit by that massive sword during the duel, he could really die. Hong looked at him with a very worried and tearful expression, with Jin immediately trying to calm her down. Jin told her that he had accepted it because he had a plan. Who said anyone is going to die? She just needs to think about how she will congratulate him once he returns victorious. Chae-seok wondered how he could make jokes right now, and asked Tae-san if he was really going to stand there and watch. He should do something about his son. Jin told him that this was something he could handle on his own, so there was no need for anyone to do anything. They should trust him once, and watch. Chae-seok let it go, and Jin looked at his father, telling him not to worry, as everything would be fine. The next day, inside the Iron Sword Sect, Hong came running to Jin, trying to tell him about the Outer Hall Master, but before she could even finish, Jin was rushing out the door. He told her not to worry because he thought something like this might happen. On the day of the duel at the Iron Sword Sect Central Training Grounds, the very thing he feared occurred. Everyone gathered there, with people calling Jin a fearless brat for daring to insult the Iron Sword Sect. It seemed that his father, the Outer Hall Master, was also apologizing. As the sect leader generously said, he would forgive him if Jin truly repented. Naturally, Chanwol and Ju-tak were satisfied, and Chanwol apologized to the chief strategist for causing him concern, but Jagal said it was fine. Jagal said Chanwol shouldn't mind him, and should tend to his business, but privately wondered what Chanwol was trying to do by reprimanding Jin publicly, in front of him no less. The Iron Sword Sect seemed determined to expel the Taeeul Sect from the 108 peaks at any cost. Taesan smacked his head into the ground, apologizing. As his careless son had committed a grave sin, he begged for his forgiveness. Chonwol agreed that they should hear about this sin worthy of death that Taesan's son committed. Taesan noted that he used words that insulted the sect. Chonwol found this rather nostalgic, like father, like son, and it brought back memories of 20 years ago. That's when Jin arrived and asked what the hell he was doing right now. He stepped next to his father and told him to stand up. Why is he prostrating himself like some sort of sinner? Taesan told him to stay back. What father in this world could just watch his son die? Jin threw the same logic back at him, saying that no son in this world would stand by and watch his father look so pathetic. Taesan told him to stand back once again, but Jin refused. Mohyun laughed, as paternal love is truly something to behold. His father is banging his head against the ground, begging him to spare his life. It almost brings tears to his eyes. He'll just let it slide, just this once, out of respect for his father's sincerity, so he should go ahead and get on his knees right now. Jin, however, stepped in front of Taesan and told him that he had already drawn his blade. From here on, Taesan's apologies are meaningless, so he should stand back. He just wants to show them that he is not just a man of words. He will not let them down, so they should just watch. The training ground was cleared, and Mohyun was given his blade, eager to see the skills of a disciple from the 108 peaks. Jin thought that, as the successor of the Iron Sword Sect, Mohyun grew up absorbing all sorts of resources. However, the swordsmanship of the Iron Sword Sect is heavy. It's a poor match against the Taeeul Sect's sword art, which focuses on lightness and speed. First, he wants to overwhelm him with speed. He uses the Lesser Heaven sword art to charge in, and reaches the point where Mohyun blocks his strike. He pushes Jin back and aims a devastating strike right into him as he opens his guard. Jagal looks at this calmly. He notes the Iron Sword Sect is strong, but for him to be pushed back in the very first exchange, just as the rumors say, the Taeeul Sect is lacking in talent. Mohyun wonders if this is all he got, standing above Jin, but this is to be expected of the Taeeul Sect. They are nothing special. Jin gets up and tells him to shut up, as this is only the beginning. They continue clashing blades, but Jin can feel just how absurdly strong this guy is. Mohyun tells him that in the past, there was a man exactly like him, a man from a certain sect who didn't know his place, insulted the Iron Sword Sect just like he did, and dueled his father. Naturally, that man lost, and he paid the price for disrespecting the Iron Sword Sect. Does he know what that price was? With the flat side of a glowing blade, his back, his chest, and his abdomen were beaten as punishment, and that man's name was Taesan of the Taeeul Sect. Jin now finally understands why his father is the way he is, and looks at Taesan, whose eyes widen as he hears this. Mohyun kicks him in the chest for daring to look away during a duel, pushing him back. The others scream for him, but Jin thinks that this is pointless, even if he swallows the humiliation right in front of him, enduring dishonor, feigning ignorance, and covering it with some kind of smile. This shameful history will only repeat itself. That's what everyone thinks, huh? But he refuses to stand down idly. He charges in with the first basic form, but Mohyun has tired of it, and says this is just what he would expect from a disciple of such an insignificant sect. He swings widely, but Jin ducks right under his blade and begins dodging again and again, with Mohyun not understanding what is going on. However, Jin is reading every single movement, learning exactly how he fights. He will get stronger and stronger to a point where he can change the future. He rushes in with the first basic form once again, actually managing to hit Mohyun, who ends up on his knees, holding himself up with his large blade. Jin looks back at him with a smile, wondering if this is all the Iron Sword Sect has to offer after all. Mohyun naturally gets angry at this assault, and charges in once again, crashing his heavy sword into the ground where Jin was moments before. He continues doing this, with the spectators shielding themselves from the debris. They wonder if he's trying to actually kill Jin, who is just dodging, and when he finds the opportunity, he deflects Mohyun's sword and goes on his own assault, actually pushing Mohyun back. Jagal notes that the Taeeul Sect's swordsmanship is more relentless than he imagined, and one can clearly see a massive difference in their combat experience. The spectators wonder if Mohyun is actually getting cornered, and Jin keeps pushing. He thinks that this is the cursed karma that has pursued him since his past life. Even if he does win this duel, it will not be enough to end this accursed fate. Mohyun rushes in again with deadly but imprecise strikes, allowing Jin to get behind him and use the bracelet. Mohyun gets flustered and charges in to eliminate the threat. This is what Jin was waiting for, as he swings his blade in the air and leaves Mohyun unarmed. Everyone is utterly stunned by what has just transpired, and the blade lands on the ground roughly, the only sound that can be heard in the silence. Mohyun can't believe it. He, the very Bloodwolf Iron Sword, let his blade fall. He picks up his blade and charges in with a lot more desperation, only for Jin to trip him and send him falling on his face. He swiftly gets up and slams his sword towards Jin, but Jin disarms him again. This time, the blade sounding like a bell signaling the end. Mohyun can't believe it. His pupils narrow and unfocused. Something is wrong. His internal energy is being disrupted. At this rate, he can't even use proper techniques, and just holding his blade is a struggle. Jin rushes in, noting that Mohyun's mastery of internal energy is almost non-existent. He crashes his blade into the ground next to Mohyun, again and again, causing him to cower before he extracts it. Mohyun realizes this has been happening ever since Jin touched him earlier. Before Jin can bring his blade down onto him, Mohyun screams about witchcraft. Does he have any idea who is watching? To use witchcraft that was forbidden by the Murim Alliance right in the middle of a duel? He is definitely a cultist spy. He begins crawling towards Chonwol, telling him that it's obvious this boy used witchcraft. He felt it on himself. He definitely used the heaven-devouring art. Naturally, people start to wonder, and Chonwol gets up. Jagal thinks about the words that have just been spoken, words that should never be spoken lightly. Anyone who uses witchcraft and forbidden arts receives punishment from the Alliance. But on the other hand, if the accusation is false, the accuser suffers worse. And since this came from the mouth of this man's grandson, it is complicated. Before he can act, however, Jin tells them that they are both pitiful. He and the others insulted his sect, and yet he held back. He even apologized and backed down, but he insisted on a duel, claiming he had stained the honor of the Iron Sword Sect. His true intentions are as clear as today's sky. He just wanted to prove that his sect is stronger, that they are the ones who should be part of the 108 Peaks. He definitely wanted to put on this show in front of everyone. Even so, Jin accepted this duel to win and prove the value of the Taeeul Sect through his skill. But now that Mohyun realizes he has lost, he throws out these accusations, and it's honestly pathetic. It is clear why the Iron Sword Sect won't ever be qualified to enter the 108 Peaks. Jagal is amused, thinking that it will not hurt to observe this interaction much longer. Surprisingly, the people watching are on Jin's side, as Mohyun has completely tarnished the name of his sect. Hearing this, Mohyun invokes his own reputation, noting that ever since he was a child, he never lost to anyone his age, in anything. Do they really think he would lose to a mere disciple? How could he lose if it was not witchcraft? During the fight, he felt his internal energy being blocked and drained, and to be certain of it, he just prolonged the duel. He, an unworthy grandson, swears on his name that if anything he said was a lie, he would accept any punishment. Chanwol lets out a heavy sigh and notes that they should stop the duel here. Jin asks how he dares to interrupt something that already has a winner. Chanwol tells him that if there is suspicion of witchcraft, they cannot just let it go, so he will search his body. Jin wonders if he's going to insist. Does he intend to frame a small sect like theirs, just because they were not accepted into the 108 Peaks? If it is proven that he is innocent, how will he bear the consequences? Chanwol screams at him to shut it. His hesitation only makes it more suspicious. Right now, he will inspect him and report it to the Murim Alliance. Both he and his sect will pay dearly. Jin, having had enough, calls out to his father and draws his blade again. For the honor of their sect, which he values more than life itself, he is ready to sacrifice himself. He begs for forgiveness, and asks the hall master of the Joyful Flower Hall that, if he is mutilated or killed, nobody touch his body until the disciplinary pavilion of the Murim Alliance arrives. He, Jin So-woon of the Taeeul Sect, by his honor and the honor of his sect, which has been dragged into the dirt by the schemes of the vile Iron Sword Sect, is ready to die today. He formally challenges the Iron Sword Sect leader to a duel to the death. Everyone is left stunned, and Chanwol immediately unleashes his aura, demanding to know how he dares to raise his voice in the presence of the Iron Sword Sect leader. This sends debris flying again as Taesan and Chae-seok immediately get in front of Jin, telling him not to act like a damn fool. Taesan says a father would never let his son die before him. Chanwol rushes in, aiming to personally put an end to the Taeeul Sect. Just as this is about to turn into a bloodbath, Jagal says one word: stop. They all immediately do so, and Jagal commands them to sheathe their blades. Everyone does so, but Jagal stares at Jin, telling him that what he said includes him. Jin refuses, as he cannot sheathe his blade. Chanwol can't believe this insolence. How dare he act so arrogantly in front of the chief strategist of the Murim Alliance? Jagal asks for his reason, and Jin asks what Jagal was doing when the Iron Sword Sect used this duel as an excuse to insult his sect, and threatened him by framing him for sorcery. How can he trust someone like him, who does nothing and just watches? Jagal calls him insolent as he steps forward, but privately thinks that Jin is bold. His words as chief strategist are the words of the Murim Alliance itself, but he also thinks that he missed the opportunity to intervene because he was amused. He suddenly appears next to Jin and asks what it is that he wants. Jin says exactly what he wants: the head of the Iron Sword Sect leader in front of him. This causes Jagal to smirk, as he's basically saying that he wants to continue the duel. Naturally, he will lose, but if he dies during the duel, he will become a martyr who sacrificed his life for his sect, and the Iron Sword Sect will become a band of bandits who ignored the ethics of the Murim Alliance, oppressing the weak and causing death. It is truly amusing. Jagal addresses Chanwol and asks how confident he is, since the boy has put his life on the line to prove his innocence. Can he wager his sect's plaque? Chanwol clears his throat, noting that eradicating forbidden arts is a natural duty of any member of the Alliance, so why would he wager his plaque? If he insists on taking responsibility, then he will take responsibility with his blade. Jagal understands and asks Chanwol what he thinks about wagering his divine weapon. Jin is surprised to hear this, realizing Jagal is talking about the divine weapon said to have been used by the founder of the Iron Sword Sect, and passed down through generations, the Ninefold Sword. This is a provocation from the chief strategist, but why would he target the Iron Sword Sect leader like this? Naturally, Chanwol refuses. He didn't mean to wager that blade. He meant that he would participate in the duel. Jagal wonders why there is a need for a duel. If the sect leader is correct, they only need to examine the boy's dantian, and it will all be over. Even to his eyes, today's situation is unreasonable. Could it be that, just as that brat claimed, they were trying to use the backing of the Alliance to commit a despicable act worthy of decapitation? Chanwol, knowing he messed up, agrees to do as he says. Jagal understands and asks Jin if he's satisfied with this, and Jin simply nods. Jagal puts 2 fingers on his wrist and tells him to relax. As he's going to examine his body, he should not resist his chi. With a sudden burst of energy, the examination begins, everyone watching with mesmerized expressions. Jagal thinks that since the heaven-devouring art is a chi art that absorbs the chi of others, all kinds of different chi coexist within the dantian of anyone who learned it. If this person's dantian is in such a state, Jagal will find out. With everyone holding their breaths, he explains that this boy has not learned the heaven-devouring art. Chanwol's face drops, and Mo-yeon screams that he wasn't lying. Chanwol, having the mentality of a 10-year-old with a grudge, thinks his grandson is right. There is no way the Taeeul Sect would defeat them without sorcery. He suddenly grabs Jin's hand and decides to check himself, rushing all his chi into Jin roughly, causing him to immediately cough up blood and almost pass out. Moran screams for her grandfather to stop, and he does so, as Jin falls down in a bloody mess. As the others go to Jin, Jagal calmly approaches Chanwol and demands to know if Chanwol really wishes to lose his head right this instant. Chanwol didn't feel any trace that Jin had learned the heaven-devouring art, so how in the hell did this boy win? Jin is not done. He pushes himself to his knees and demands an apology for this act. For this despicable act, committed by Chanwol and his honorless descendant, they will pay, be it in blood or in possessions. With that, he falls unconscious, and Jagal tells Chanwol to keep his promise, lest he lose something else. A few hours later, Jin slowly wakes up, then immediately jolts upright, screaming for the sect leader. Jagal, who is next to him, is glad to see him awake, and wonders, is the show over now? Inside the dungeons of the Iron Sword Sect, Mohyun screams that Jin definitely learned the heaven-devouring art, pleading with his grandfather to believe him. Chanwol steps away, telling him to come to his senses. Does he have any idea what they lost because of him? To think he was once going to hand the Iron Sword Sect over to a fool like him. What a foolish boy. He should not even think about drinking a single drop of water until he has reflected on his actions. With this, Mohyun's fate is irrevocably changed, from the future leader of the sect to a failure. Jin looks at Jagal, and then away, wondering what show he means. However, Jin expected this because he knows he can't deceive this man with a mediocre performance. He is a genius among the geniuses, the chief strategist of the Murim Alliance. If the martial world has Yong Seoe, then the scholarly world has Jagal Somyoung. He passed away before his regression, even before the outbreak of the Great War, but he is someone who many people said could have prevented the Murim Alliance from suffering from the demonic cult, had he lived. Jin wonders if he knew everything from the start, and Jagal confirms as such. Jin provoked the Iron Sword Sect leader into stepping forward on purpose, and used Jagal to avoid actually having to duel Chanwol. He even gained everyone's trust in the process of clearing his name, and what's more, the blood he coughed up back then was from biting his inner lip, wasn't it? Now Jagal wants to know when Jin planned all this. A heavy silence falls over the room, and Jagal wonders if he has forgotten how to speak. Jin slowly gets up and wonders, is that sword leaning on his desk the ninefold sword he was going to receive? If so, naturally, he has to check the goods first. Jagal is left stunned, as Jin simply goes to the blade, wondering how much he can sell it for. Jagal finds his words rather disrespectful, even if he is not the owner of the blade, and Jin explains it wasn't as if he planned this a long time ago. It started when the Iron Sword Sect leader invited his sect, a sect they aren't close to his anniversary banquet. But he thought that if the Iron Sword Sect tried to pick a fight, he should crush that arrogance completely. Jagal sits silent for a beat, and asks whether Jin is saying he expected the duel with Mohyun too. Did he also predict that Mohyun would scream witchcraft during the battle? Jagal finds it hard to understand how Jin made Mohyun think that way. Jin just flat out tells him that answering anything beyond that wouldn't be worth his time. Jagal helped Jin get the ninefold sword, so Jin repaid him by answering one of his questions. Jagal smirks, noting that there are people in the world who would wait for days with thousands of gold coins to have a conversation with him. Jin believes that's because they expect to gain something worth more than those gold coins, and he has nothing to gain from him. If he has no other questions, then he will take his leave. Jagal is left naturally perplexed, and with a heavy sigh, puts something on the table, hoping it's enough. Now, Jagal wants Jin to tell him how he predicted that Mohyun would mention the forbidden arts. Jin smirks, having gotten what he wanted, and explains that it was nothing special. He used Mohyun's arrogance, just as he would with any prodigy. However, even Jin didn't expect Mohyun to spew nonsense about the heaven-devouring art, or something like that. However, Jin thinks that he did use something similar. Fortunately, likely because the blue dragon bracelet purely filtered the energy it absorbed, even Jagal didn't notice. Jin opens the box to see what's inside, and is surprised to find spiritual pills of the Iron Sword Sect, the Iron Heart pills. Jin thanks Jagal for giving him these, and Jagal gets up, wondering why, if Jin was certain of his victory in the duel against Mohyun, he did not win easily. Jin tells him if he had just won, people would have whispered about it being luck. He wanted to ensure that the Iron Sword Sect could never oppress his sect again. Jagal wonders, what if he hadn't been there? What if he had ended up falsely accused of learning a forbidden art until the end? Jin tells him that if they examined his corpse, it would have been revealed he had no such thing. If that happened, his sect could have cleared its name. Jagal wonders if he truly risked his life just for something like that. Jin clenches his fists and tells him that his family, its traditions, and the honor carried by that name are everything to him. Does he really think the Taeeul Sect lacks such things? Jagal looks at him, and then bursts into laughter. He knew he was an interesting youngling. Jagal decides to give Jin another gift, since Jin entertained him, and Jin's eyes widen when he realizes what it is. It is an admission token, a privilege granted to the 108 peaks, that allows a single person to enter the academy unconditionally, instead of taking the Murim Academy's hellish regular exam. That means, they can send another one of their sect disciples to the Murim Academy. Jin is naturally touched, but Jagal immediately tells him that after he graduates from the academy, he should come work for the Montong agency where he works. Jin knows the agency he's talking about, where overwork, night shifts, and never getting married are the norm. Jagal notes that he'll create a position for him. It's a place where prodigies gather to work after all, so he should hurry up and come to work by his side. Before Jin can scream that he doesn't want to, Jagal simply leaves, noting that the agency is going to get lively. The next day, at the gates of the Iron Sword Sect, Moran looks at the guests who are leaving, but her mind is somewhere else. She saw how her grandfather treated someone of great honor, and remembered how she had previously defended her grandfather to that same person. Her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but flush even more when Jin whispers in her ear, wondering what she's doing out here all alone. She takes a step back and wrings her hands together, noting that he was far too reckless. During that duel, why did he even go that far? This takes Jin back to Jagal's question, and he wonders, is she saying that the Taeeul Sect should have accepted humiliation from people like them? Is that what she's trying to imply? Moran tries to tell him that's not what she meant, but the words die in her throat, and she can only do this: apologize. She knows there is no way that he would accept something like that. If she were in Jin's position, she would never be able to forgive them either. However, Jin tells her to raise her head, as he understands. It's not an apology from the people she would have liked to hear it from, but he accepts it. Expecting an apology from the sect leader would be asking too much, huh? Moran tries to tell him that she will definitely make her grandfather apologize, but Jin tells her there's no need to continue this chain of misfortune and hatred. If she feels bad about what happened, she should take responsibility and change the Iron Sword Sect, so that it does not remain the way it is now. The Taeeul Sect and the Iron Sword Sect have many differences, but ultimately they stem from the same root, the Murim Alliance itself. At that point, Moran realizes something. Her older brother and her grandfather, because they could not offer a single apology out of foolish pride, let things get to this point. She begins sobbing a bit, and Jin immediately tries to calm her down, noting that tears don't suit warriors. Moran steels herself, noting that, despite everything, she is also a member of the Iron Sword Sect, so he should accept this as a token of her sincere regret for what the Iron Sword Sect has done. However, as he said, she hopes that the Taeeul Sect and the Iron Sword Sect can have a good relationship in the future, so she is giving him this to promote that future. Jin opens the box and is surprised by what he sees, an item that only the direct descendants of the Iron Sword Sect can receive, the Steel Protection Pill. It's a precious elixir that can even compare to the Iron Heart Pill. Even for Moran, it will be difficult for her to get another one of these. She salutes Jin, hoping that they can meet again with smiles on their faces next time. Jin does the same, and hopes to meet with Moran again. When Jin returns, everyone from the sect immediately jumps him, asking if the rumors about him are true, and saying that they want to see the legendary Ninefold Sword. However, one of them, Yoon Ho, the Silver Brother, comes forward more sheepishly and explains that he regretted joining the Taeeul Sect at one point, when people asked why he joined, and said that he would never achieve great things with just the weak Lesser Heaven sword art. He had no way to retort when he heard them, but that's no longer the case. In fact, thanks to him, he is proud to be someone of the Taeeul Sect. He is also going to train hard in the Lesser Heaven sword art, and become a great disciple who will bring pride to the sect. Just like him, Jin pats him on the chest, and notes that he's looking forward to it. The Taeeul Sect leader, Hong's father, Moon-gi, explains that when he heard the news about the Iron Sword Sect, he couldn't sleep at night. They all worked hard. During the 150 years since the Iron Sword Sect emerged, the Taeeul Sect was always humiliated and pushed around because it lacked strength, which Moon-gi blames on his own incompetence. But Jin resolved this grievance. A child achieved what even adults could not. That makes him both grateful and ashamed. However, since Jin did something so incredible, should they not throw a banquet? Tae-san immediately refuses. Throwing a banquet now will make the children's meals miserable for the next 6 months at least. Moon-gi notes that this is not an ordinary occasion, as Jin protected the Taeeul Sect's honor, but Tae-san refuses, as honor doesn't put food on the table. Moon-gi says that if Tae-san insists so much, then he will contribute his own money. Everyone begins doing so too, and Tae-san takes all the money from them, thanking them very much. Jin looks at his father, and wonders if they are really going to have a banquet, but his father looks back at him, wondering what on earth he is talking about. His hearing has not been good as of late, maybe because of the bump on the head, so he could not hear him properly. He walks away, thinking that with this, they will be able to eat meat for all 3 meals of the day. Jin is a little apprehensive about his father, but it's a relief that he is finally back to who he once was. Of the 3 Iron Heart pills they somehow ended up receiving from the chief strategist, 2 of them were given to him and Hong, 1 for each. It was decided that the remaining pill will be given to the disciple who makes the most progress in the future. Chaeol-yong's father, Yeon Seok, naturally tried to bribe them, but Tae-san is now looking at the numbers, and thinks that Moon-gi has completely lost it. To think that they would be able to get 3 whole ins for just 1 Iron Heart pill. Yes, Yeon Seok tried to bribe Moon-gi, telling him that he will give him 3 ins for the Iron Heart pill. However, Moon-gi refused, as he heard about what happened at the Iron Sword Sect. The Taeeul Sect had always faced difficult situations. Junior disciple Chaeol-yong just sat back and drank while the pride of their sect, which they protected with their lives, was insulted. Was he trying to sell that? Jin tells Tae-san that thanks to that, the junior disciples of the Busaying Hall are working even harder now, but Tae-san tells Jin that Jin doesn't get it. With 3 ins in Hefei, they could earn enough money to buy 5 Iron Heart pills a year. Jin is kind of happy Moon-gi acted so firmly. He decides to head out, as he is tired of always talking to him about money, so he is going to earn some. Tae-san wonders where he is going to earn that money, but Jin tells him not to doubt his son's ability so much. Tae-san tries to stop him. Jin already knows he is going where the money is. Elsewhere, a few travelers arrive at the famous Wanga Manor. They say it's one of the 3 greatest merchant families in the entire world, a truly magnificent thing. They've heard their precious daughter is a great beauty too. One of the travelers wonders though, even with all those rumors about her beauty, why has nobody ever seen her in person? The lord of the Wanga Manor, Wang Gyum-san, walks up to an iron door that seems to emit frost and opens it. A fresh wave of coldness hits his face. The entire room is covered in permafrost, and Gyum-san's only daughter, Wang So-so, stands in the middle, her face a little flushed, glad to see him back. He approaches her and asks if she's had a good day, which she confirms as such. She worked on some new embroidery today. She wanted to make a new set of clothes for him with it. Gyum-san takes the embroidery but thinks about her condition. He filled the room with items that emit cold air in an attempt to save his daughter. They cannot truly save her. The doctor told him this would only delay her body from heating up. No medical art is capable of treating this. The doctor was truly sorry to say this, but his daughter won't live past the age of 20. Gyum-san shows none of his internal turmoil and asks if she wants anything, as her birthday is coming up. So laughs, as her father has basically given her anything she could ever want. If there is something she would want, it is to visit the market. The windows in her room are all sealed to keep the cold in, right? Sometimes she gets a little curious about what the outside world is like. She knows it's an absurd request on her part, and he doesn't really have to fulfill it. Gyum-san stays silent for a moment and notes that he wasn't going to tell her this until it was ready, but he's actually preparing a carriage just for her. It's taking a little time to design a mechanism that can maintain the cold air like in this room. But once it's ready, she will be able to go out as much as she wants. So thanks him profusely, as this is the best gift she could ever ask for. Gyum-san embraces her again, thinking that if it meant curing her, he would not hesitate to pay even with his life. That night, however, even this fragile piece is taken away, as Gyum-san returns to his daughter's room only to see it empty, and a message claiming that they've taken his daughter. Rage fills his senses, and he immediately summons the guards, commanding them to find the bastards immediately and drag them to hell in the name of the Wanga Manor. He will generously reward whoever saves his daughter. He will reward them with a vast fortune, and this is actually posted as a bounty, which is what Jin has been hunting for all this time. Jin begins rushing through the forest, thinking about the request for sponsorship from the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, or rather, the deal. This transaction will inevitably end the moment the Taeeul Sect gives the Gyeorong Merchant Guild what it wants. What the Taeeul Sect needs is true sponsorship, for example, something built upon sincere gratitude, and preferably from someone powerful enough that the Taeeul Sect won't regret tossing the Gyeorong Merchant Guild aside. A massive sponsorship that can solve their financial deficit. Therefore, Jin has now become a knight in shining armor, and has found where So is being held. Among the crimes reported around Hefei and Chao Lake during this time, he narrowed the options down to a few records involving a little girl. Most were just home invasion cases, or unidentified corpses. However, there was exactly one report of a decapitated corpse of an unidentified girl buried near this cabin. He does find her, but he's kind of confused by the scene. Jin sees that her condition is extremely strange. Her body is burning like fire, leaving Jin confused because there were no records of her being sick. The guards know that the higher-ups ordered them to destroy all of the evidence if the plan went wrong, so they have no choice. Now they have to kill her and bury her body. Before the guard can kill her, though, Jin rushes down and slashes his back, immediately taking out the two others as well. With So able to see his figure before she passes out, Jin takes the ropes off of her and analyzes her body, which is burning like crazy. Her condition is too severe to be a simple illness. So suddenly awakens and weakly asks who he is. Jin introduces himself as someone from the Taeeul Sect. He was just taking a stroll nearby when he heard something suspicious coming from the cabin. He looked inside and saw that these people had kidnapped her. As a martial artist who upholds the principles of Jianghu, he could not ignore it and intervened. So thanks him for saving her and introduces herself. She'll tell her father about this and make sure he's rewarded. However, she can barely say so, as her body continues heating up. Jin notes that he would take her to a doctor, but she immediately refuses, as she normally stays in her room, the ice pavilion. If she is not surrounded by cold air, her body gets hotter. If she forces herself to move like this, all her acupoints in her body will burn. Jin figures it is not a simple illness, but to think her acupoints would actually burn. Just what kind of disease is this? He immediately searches the library in his mind, and eventually finds something. Among the documents he memorized in the Murim Alliance, there were many medical texts. There must be a record of the disease with these symptoms, and he finds it in a compendium of the 10,000 diseases. It is the medical text written by Gong Hyak-chun, the one known as the second coming of the Hua-to. He reads something. Emitting a boiling fiery qi throughout the body, causes a high fever and intense pain. In severe cases, the acupoints can burn. Some are born with this, and when the symptoms worsen, exposing the body to cold air can help a little. This is solar constitution. This is not a disease, but a bodily constitution. If that is truly the case, then there is no treatment. For a woman to be born with a solar constitution, though, of all times to be in this situation, it is crazy. When So disappeared in his past life, the lord of the Wanga Manor spent his fortune searching every corner of Hefei, but he could never find her body. The kidnappers, just like Jin, did not expect So to have such an issue with her body, and since someone on the verge of death has no value as a hostage, they probably killed her. But if the solar constitution is the problem, would using that method work? Jin tells her that he might know a way to change her bodily constitution. So pushes herself up the best she can, and begs him to tell her. She will do anything if he tells her. Jin tells her that changing one's constitution is not something she can decide easily, especially if it turns out to be a scam. So tells him that he was the one who subdued her kidnappers. Although she is not that old, she can at least distinguish between someone who wants to help and someone who wants to harm. Jin nods and understands. Then he will tell her what she needs to know before the treatment. A similar case was recorded in a book of archives. It is the story of the bare-handed Jade Maiden, a supreme master born with a lunar constitution. Because of her constitution, she reached the pinnacle of ice arts. But due to that, she was unable to conceive. She sought out the divine physician of life and death, and begged him to change her constitution, and the divine physician discovered a way to swap extreme yang and extreme yin constitutions. The bare-handed Jade Maiden had a similar constitution to So's solar constitution, so if they reverse that treatment method, it should work the same way. However, there is something they must be wary of. She must take a special pill every day, and there is no returning to her previous constitution once the treatment is complete. Since the pills are highly toxic as well, she must also practice energy cultivation every day along with taking them. The only mental cultivation method he can pass on to her is the mental cultivation method of the Taeeul Sect. If she learns this, she won't be able to learn any other internal energy cultivation method. So tells him it doesn't matter. She has no intention of becoming a martial artist. What she truly wants is to see the flowers bloom in the spring, to fan herself in the summer heat, and to go boating with her family. She wants what she could never enjoy, any of these ordinary things that others take for granted. Jin hears a step outside and thinks that they are already here. Before Soso can wonder who that is, Jin puts her to sleep and apologizes, as it would put him in a difficult position if she, or the Wanga Manor, found out the identities of the kidnappers. One of the kidnappers claims that there is no response from the carrier pigeon, so something must have happened. They should quickly secure the hostage first. And keep in mind, whatever happens, our identities could be exposed, so we should not use that sword technique. Jin gets on top of the house, noting that he really doesn't like sneaky cowards, especially those from the Namgung clan. The kidnappers draw their blades, demanding to know who he is, and Jin jumps down, noting that he is just someone who is about to ruin their day. The leader of the kidnappers curses, realizing that if this goes wrong, they won't be able to get out safely. Above all, there can absolutely be no witnesses. They demand to know his identity, but Jin notes that revealing it would be his loss. Besides, he already knows them very well. To be exact, they belong to the Namgung clan's Kangkyung merchant group, and they are Namgung Sanggun's secret henchmen. One of them asks, "Is that all?" But Jin even knows exactly why they committed such a crazy act of kidnapping. No matter what they tried, the Kangkyung merchant group simply couldn't find a way to beat the Wanga Manor, so they stooped this low to cause trouble for them, right? But Namgung Sanggun really crossed the line here, ordering the kidnapping of another family's precious daughter. The group leader gathers his power, and notes that since Jin knows their identity, there is no reason not to use the Namgung sword style. 3 of the kidnappers immediately charge in at Jin, and he is impressed by the technique. He deflects the blades of the first 2, and kicks sand in the eyes of the third one. He bashes his shoulder into the bandit on the right, and slashes him before the other on the left. Uses a second form of the Kangkyung limitless sword technique, which consists of a series of swift strikes. Jin is impressed that he knows the second form. A thrust followed by an upward slash. Then the kidnapper needs to take another step forward. He should have gotten half a step closer. He should try again, perhaps. The leader watches as Jin toys with the last kidnapper and thinks that this makes no sense. How could someone like him, who came from God knows where, currently be overpowering the great Namgung clan's sword technique? It seems Jin has some knowledge he picked up, likely from eavesdropping, but the leader had better stay on his guard. The leader thinks the ultimate move of the Kangkyung limitless sword technique that he is about to unleash is on a level Jin could never predict. He rushes in with a bunch of ghostly apparitions that shield his movements, but in a few swift strikes, Jin takes him down, with the leader wondering how Jin ever did such a thing. Jin wonders why he's surprised that he shattered the sword technique. Did they think it was invincible or something? But they had no choice but to think that way, since the Namgung clan doesn't even know of the existence of the sword-breaking formula for the Kangkyung limitless sword technique yet. He goes back into the cabin, as now he will begin the treatment of Soso. A few days later, Soso is awake, doing much better, and keeping up quite well. Her body may be weak, but her talent for martial arts is not bad at all. Jin has made her take the special herb pill every day, and has taught her how to make the pills herself too. He has also taught her the Taeeul Sect's mental cultivation method, so she can dispel the toxins contained within the pills on her own. Jin thinks that this is good. If she keeps this up, she will be able to go about her daily life much more freely. She gets up, asking if she did all right, and Jin says she did so perfectly, since he has taught her how to make the pills, and how to circulate her energy. Their work here is done, so how about they head back home? So agrees. But before they leave, she asks if she can call him Big Brother. Jin is surprised, but if that's what makes her comfortable, then she can. So beams at him and tells him to call her Soso as well. She'd love it if her big brother spoke casually to her. Jin agrees, and reaches out to pat her head, but he remembers what happened last time when he patted her head, and thinks that girls don't really like that sort of thing, right? So doesn't deny it. If it's him, it might be okay. With that, they walk out, and Soso is amazed as the cherry blossoms bloom. This is what they call spring. In her room, the ice pavilion, all the windows were sealed with iron gates, and the temperatures were always freezing, like the dead of winter. She never expected to see spring flowers and trees with her own eyes. She wants to climb that mountain too, but Jin tells her that they will have to train her first to climb mountains. Is she ready for that? She tells Jin that she's practically a disciple of the Taeeul Sect now, so all that's left is to train. They arrive in the Wanga village, and she can see her home from far away. She grabs Jin's hand, as she will definitely tell her father about him. He will surely prepare a grand feast. All the branch managers of the Wanga Manor from across the country will gather for the festival. There'll be so much food and music too. However, Jin lets go of her hand and apologizes, saying he can only take her this far. Elsewhere, at the Namgung clan's guest house, Namgung-san is a little annoyed at Jagal, because he said he would give the admission token to his sister. His sister Seon-hwa has incredible talent that easily compares to anyone else's. Jagal calmly drinks his tea, noting that if that's the case, then she should be able to easily pass the regular entrance exam. Namgung-san clenches his fists, asking him if he does not know what people call the Murim Academy's regular entrance exam. Every year, hundreds of thousands of martial artists apply, but only 500 manage to pass. That's why it's called the Hell Standard Exam. Jagal tells him that from the beginning, he only said he would test Seon-hwa to see if she was worthy of receiving the admission token from him. He should have understood from that he had no intention of simply handing it over. San rebukes this, as Seon-hwa hasn't even had a chance to take the test yet, but Jagal tells him that this is because there is someone else more talented than Seon-hwa who deserves that admission token. San refuses to think that someone's more talented than her. He surely must be mistaken. Jagal calmly puts his tea down, but his expression is anything but. He dares to question his judgment. Is he in any position to try and convince him? It seems his family situation is deteriorating day by day. Who would have thought that the main family of the Namgung clan would be so afraid of facing the regular entrance exam? The Namgung clan strictly divides the duties of the main family and the branch families. The main family is tasked with preserving the tradition of the clan, while the branch families are responsible for managing external affairs. The merchant group run by the head of the Namgung clan's branch family, Namgung Sangun, is none other than the Kongkyung merchant group. As the Kongkyung merchant group grew, the power of the branch families grew stronger as well, and now it has reached a point where they must ask the branch families for help, even when handling internal affairs. Even if they use the Namgung clan's name to cause trouble, they, the main family, cannot do anything about it. Jagal wonders if they have prepared any countermeasures. San tells him that his father, the clan leader, is currently developing the sword-breaking formula for the Boundless Firmament sword art. Jagal smashes his fist on the table, wondering if he's mad. That is a double-edged sword. The Boundless Firmament sword art isn't exclusive to the branch family. It is also the technique of the main family. San knows this full well and pushes himself up, noting that because of this situation, he also needs the admission token for the very survival of the Namgung clan's main family. San asks if he may know who Jagal gave that admission token to. Back with Soso, she asks Jin what he means, and insists that he has to come with her. Jin explains that she might not know, but her disappearance has caused an uproar throughout all of Hefei. If he goes in with her at a time like this, it will only lead to misunderstanding. So is naturally worried. Soso tells him that the things he is worried about will never happen, so he should just let her repay his kindness. Jin pats her head now. As she said, she is a disciple of the Taeeul Sect now that she's learned their cultivation method, right? That alone makes him very happy to have a new junior sister. She also shouldn't forget to take those pills and circulate her internal energy. She should also take care of herself until the next time they meet. As he leaves, people suddenly realize who she is, but her gaze is not locked on them. It's locked on the man who saved her life, who is now walking away seemingly without reward. The man who saved her life twice over. Jin walks back, thinking that, unlike his original plan, getting a reward from the Wang family has become difficult. There were too many unexpected variables. Even if it was born out of goodwill, he did force the cultivation method of the Taeeul Sect onto Soso and altered her constitution. No matter how he tries to explain it, in the worst-case scenario, they might suspect him of staging the kidnapping himself. To hide his true goal and ease the Wang family's suspicions, it's best to refuse any reward and wait for the Wang family to seek him out. If Gyum-san is a grateful man, he'll come find him and repay the favor. But what if he isn't? Well, he will just consider it a good deed, and that's that. As he returns to his sect, though, he sees Hong talking with someone. Jin immediately starts to overthink it, thinking that she's all grown up and meeting men now. As her senior martial brother, he should see what kind of punk it is. However, that's when the man roughly pushes a bag into her hands and notes that he has no intention of leaving, even if he has to stay the night right here. Jin's eyes harden, and he immediately steps in front of Hong, noting that he doesn't care what kind of high and mighty young master he is, but forcing himself on a young lady who clearly said no is completely rude. However, that's when he realizes who he is. It's Namgung-san, the awakened divine dragon of the Namgung clan. Hong asks Jin where he's been all this time. This guy's been looking for him for a while now. Jin wonders why he is here at the Taeeul Sect, when he should be busy with the Dragon and Phoenix conferences. Is it perhaps because he interfered with the Kangkyung merchant group's plans? That can't be it, because that guild answers to Namgung Sangun, who belongs to a branch family. He is a member of the direct line. He would never move on behalf of the branch family. It's something that didn't exist in his past life, but exists now, and it can only be that. San tries to tell him that he has an urgent matter to discuss with him, but Jin simply sidesteps him, as he is going to pay respects to the sect leader first. It's not like he had an appointment, so he should just wait a bit more outside of the gates. Hong wonders what's gotten into him, acting like he cares about manners, but San's expression hardens. Both the sect leader and Tai-san are surprised to see Jin approach them and pay respects. Tai-san gets up and wonders if he hit his head or something to actually pay respects to the sect leader, but Jin says he's fine, and asks what kind of thing that is to say to him. The sect leader asks if he had a safe trip, and Jin confirms as such, noting he has a few things to report, so he will have a seat. Tai-san tries to tell him off, but the sect leader tells him it's fine. It would be nice to share a cup of tea with Jin, after such a long time. Jin explains everything that happened, that he saved a child who appears to have been kidnapped. Jin also tells him that during the rescue, the child's health was in critical condition, so he had no choice but to teach her the Taeeul cultivation method. He apologizes deeply for teaching their sex cultivation to an outsider without permission. He is telling them now, because he needs to establish the story, so things don't get complicated when Gyum-san eventually comes looking for him. The sect leader says it's fine. Martial arts are meant to benefit people after all. If he used it to save a life, then he did exactly what was right. He can safely say that they are both proud of him. Tae-san wonders, though, if he didn't receive anything from saving her, but Jin tells him that he raised the reputation of the sect. That's reward enough. Jin gets up, saying he will take his leave because he has a guest waiting for him. As the two watch him admiringly, they suddenly realize that he said he had a guest waiting. The children of the sect look on as Jin and San sit down, predominantly watching San, with one of them wishing that they were born into a family like the Namgung clan. She wishes she could learn just the Boundless Firmament sword art of the Namgung clan. Another child replies that perhaps she could, but the Namgung clan is selective about who it takes in. San looks at Jin, thinking that Jin is young yet carries an arrogant aura. Ordinary people bow their heads before him, but there are plenty of these types. The ones who bare their fangs and puff out their cheeks in hostility when facing a stronger opponent. Jin, without any sort of ceremony, asks if this is about the admission token, surprising San. San puts his cup of tea down and explains that it was originally meant for him. Jin tells him the chief strategist never told him about something like that, and San tells him it was an item he requested first. It simply landed in Jin's hands. Jin finds it strange. If it is his, why would the chief strategist give it to him? Besides, shouldn't he take this up with the chief strategist instead of Jin? Did he perhaps fail to convince the chief strategist and come here thinking he could easily take the admission token from the Taeeul Sect? San is annoyed, noting that he certainly has a knack for rubbing people the wrong way, but Jin tells him his words are just logical. It's not Jin's fault that San is getting upset. He thinks about San. He is an officer of the Murim Alliance who already graduated from the Murim Academy with top honors, and is an elite member of the Dragon and Phoenix conferences. The reason someone like him is so obsessed with the admission token must be for his younger sister, Seonhwa, who is entering the Murim Academy this term. San naturally does not expect Jin to return it for free, and he will compensate him handsomely. This is a gem known as the Seven-Colored Treasure Pearl. It is a rare treasure, valuable enough to buy a 99-room mansion if such a thing were to exist. Jin looks at the pearl, thinking that with the main lineage weakened by the branch families, San cannot rely on his clan's support like he once did. Is that why he's getting desperate? However, this makes Jin despise people like San even more. It is sickening to see how deeply he cares for his family. They do not care if others' hearts are torn out, yet they weep over a tiny scratch on their own palms. It is so repulsive. Jin wants to cut off San's hand right now. San tells him that if the people of the Jianghu learn he coveted what belongs to the Namgung clan, how does he think they will view him? However, Jin tells him to give him his best shot. He isn't even trying to hide how much he looks down on their sect. San asks if he is rejecting his offer. San says Jin must believe he and his sect can handle the Namgung clan. Jin tells him to think carefully. Not long ago, the Iron Sword sect acted just like him, and they were utterly humiliated by Jin. San naturally gets mad now. How dare he compare the great Namgung clan to a mere group like the Iron Sword sect? Heavy silence falls, and San clenches his fists, noting that they will do it like this then. Since he is brimming with confidence, they should have a martial arts duel with the admission token on the line. Everyone gathers as the duel prepares to commence under the blue sky of the mountain. The adults wonder what is going on, and a few junior brothers explain that Jin and the awakened divine dragon are going to have a martial arts duel, with Hong clearly worried about him. Chae-sok approaches swiftly, wondering what all of this commotion is, and Tai-san tells him that Jin and that man over there have agreed to a martial arts duel. Hong doesn't understand. The tension between them has been unusual ever since San arrived, but she did not expect they would fight so suddenly. Some of their junior brothers are rooting for Jin, with others being more skeptical, as that's the great Namgung San of the Namgung clan. A few argue that they should not forget Jin defeated Cheol-yong, and he even beat the Blood Wolf Iron Sword of the Iron Sword sect. He'll definitely win this time too. Tai-san looks at them and agrees, inside of his own mind, that Jin has improved leaps and bounds actually. However, there is no way the martial arts of the Taeeul Sect can withstand those of the Namgung clan. Just what on earth is he thinking this time? Jin looks at San and tells him that he hasn't forgotten the agreement, right? He will wager the admission token. San, on the other hand, will be wagering the pearl that he arrived with, the Heavenly Silk, and a Great Lotus Divine Pill of the Namgung clan. San agrees, also explaining that he will use only the Boundless Firmament sword art, and he will only use 30% of his internal energy. With that, they both begin drawing their blades. Everyone is holding their breath as Jin is the first to charge in. San is quite surprised by what he is feeling. They begin exchanging blows, and Jin can see the look on his face. San seems to be thinking that this shouldn't be happening. Indeed, as they continue to clash blades, San wonders how this is possible. The sword of a boy who has not even reached the age of 20 is this heavy. As Jin rushes in again, San sweeps his leg and pushes him back, admitting that his skills are far better than he expected. However, miracles do not happen twice. He rushes in using the Boundless Firmament sword art, but Jin is prepared, memorizing each movement. He begins blocking the sword art expertly, surprising San, making him wonder out loud what kind of trick he is pulling. Jin rushes in again, having heard that before. He's saying the exact same thing as Mo-hyun. Is he saying that he can never accept losing to a Taeeul Sect member? San grits his teeth as Jin pushes and apologizes for offending Jin. However, the Namgung clan does not lose. San continues clashing blades. He is much more fervent this time, with actual killing intent. The sect leader is surprised that San is able to reach such a level with only 30% of his internal energy. Jin thinks about this killing intent, making memories of his past life come back when he was fighting for his life. The last time he felt the true killing intent of a man who enjoyed slaying others was under the dark clouds of a storm, back when the Murim Alliance was suffering defeat after defeat against the demonic cult. They were meat shields blocking the demonic cult, a ragtag group of misfits. In his past life, Jin was the chief of the Sojong unit, when one of the demonic cultists was about to kill him. When he was frozen in fear, one of his unit members jumped in and took that blade for him. Seeing this, Jin realized something. If he does not fight, his comrades will die. As the other demonic cultists charged in, he picked up the bloody blade and decided to always risk his life in the front lines. That killing intent, fear, and terror, everything from back then, is still etched into his memory, but he will use them as a stepping stone to live forward. In this life, his family and comrades are the ones he will protect with his own hands, even if he has to bleed for it. Swinging right into San's blade, he rushes in and catches him by surprise. A large shockwave engulfs the entire area in dust, and after it clears, Jin stands on the ground, however not defeated. Didn't San clearly state that he would only use the Boundless Firmament sword art? San has basically lost the match, as he has just used the Imperial sword art. The Imperial Sword Art is the strongest sword art of the Namgung clan, passed down only to direct descendants. On top of that, he also broke the restriction on his internal energy, and used more than half. Everyone is impressed by the Imperial Sword Art, but everyone knows what that means, including San, who smiles and says that he lost. He will give up the admission token. Jin's junior brothers immediately cheer for him, and Jin tells him not to forget about the heavenly silk and other stuff. San confirms as such, and Jin can't believe his luck. He used the admission token as bait, and reeled in a massive catch, the 7-colored treasure pearl, which is worth more than a 99-room mansion, and, not to mention, the heavenly silk and Great Lotus Divine Pill, which are also incredibly rare. Before he can celebrate too much, however, San notes that they will continue this martial arts duel. San says he should have realized when the chief strategist gave Jin that plaque, that Jin was no ordinary man. His defeat is no coincidence either, but the outcome of the bet, and the outcome of the martial arts duel, are two different things entirely. He rushes in again, telling Jin to take his stance. Jin is naturally more than a little confused. He dodges San's incoming strikes again and again, wondering why he is being so stubborn. Jin thinks they should just say Jin lost the martial arts duel so he can stop now. San, however, doesn't need empty words of concession, because victory is something one must own with their own strength. Jin can feel that his sword has changed. It feels much heavier than before. Jin wonders whether San is driven by the same kind of desperation. Just as Jin could not bear to lose his comrades, San cannot allow the Namgung name to be tarnished. That desperation is starting to weigh on his sword, and on top of that, he's using something uncounterable. San deflects Jin's attack and sends his entire body flying, finding him rather intriguing. San notes that Jin blocked the Boundless Firmament sword art with force, and Chaeseok tells them to step down and stop at this instant. Hasn't he already gotten what he wanted? If he keeps fighting, he might get seriously hurt because the young Master Namgung has completely unleashed his internal energy. Jin slowly pushes himself up, not expecting this man to go all out. San is going all out just to defeat someone he looked down on. Jin despises those who act all high and mighty, the Murim Alliance, the 9 sects, even the 5 great clans. However, Jin has to respect San's willingness to give it his all. With everyone watching, that does not mean he can lose. He too has his own blade as a disciple of the Taeeul Sect. San looks at him more appraisingly, and notes that it seems he is hiding something. Blocking the Boundless Firmament sword art, and crushing the Iron Sword Sect were not luck, were they? San tells Jin that he still isn't ready to face the Imperial sword art, and declares that he will take the victory in this martial arts duel. Jin just tells him to stop talking, and come to him. San smiles, appreciating his words, and rushes in, telling him not to blame him if he dies. Jin knows there is no counter to the sword stance. However, the opening stance of the Imperial sword art he just saw is already memorized, every single detail of it. With it, he is able to dodge and rush in. When Jin attempts a strike, however, San parries in that split second. With his back turned, Jin is forced to clash his blade roughly into San's, getting pushed back extremely hard, as San himself pushes just as hard. Jin is on his last legs, but that's when he hears his junior brother cheer for him, telling him to show the power of the Taeeul Sect and win this. Jin smiles, knowing what he must do, and begins clashing his weaker blade much more fervently into San's stronger one. He knows his junior brothers are watching closely, even if they aren't born into the Namgung clan. Even without powerful techniques like the Boundless Firmament sword art, or the Imperial sword art, with just the Lesser Heaven sword art of the Taeeul Sect, one can become as strong as they want. As their blades clash once again, Jin's own blade shatters into pieces, and everyone thinks that it is over as San prepares a whirlwind strike that crashes right onto Jin. Blood sprays across their shadows. Hong's face falls, not exactly because Jin has lost, but because he has caught San's blade in his hand, and has put his broken blade, jagged but still sharp, to San's neck. Now he wonders if San still wishes to continue this duel. San, in surprise, takes a step back and drops his blade. In turn, Jin cries out as his hand hurts like hell. Thank goodness he channeled all of his internal energy to protect it. Otherwise, it would have been cut clean off. The juniors cheer for Jin, and immediately encircle him. Tai-san and Chai-seok are wide-eyed, along with the sect leader, but San just looks at Jin with a new kind of perspective. Naturally, after Jin goes to the infirmary, he is immediately getting chewed out by Hong, who notes that he must have lost his damn mind. How could anyone in their right mind do something like that? Jin tries to sheepishly tell her that he's still her senior brother, but she doesn't really care about that at all. Who catches a sword with their bare hands anyway? What if San had cut his hand off? The others join in too, Tai-san agreeing with Hong. Even in a martial arts duel with wooden swords, one doesn't grab a blade. Chaeseok just calls him a fool, and the sect leader just wonders what the doctor said. The doctor, in turn, said that the cut almost damaged his bone, and he must rest completely until the wound heals, but Jin just passes it off as nothing. Hong smacks her fist into his cheek, with Jin falling down pretty dramatically, and wondering what his junior sister is doing to him. However, Hong's tears begin to spill to the ground, and with a red fist, she tells him that if he ever does something so reckless again, she will cut his hand off with her own sword. Jin now feels a little more guilty and understands, telling her not to cry as she sighs, regaining control of her emotions. The sect leader crouches down beside Jin, looks at his hand, and wonders why he went that far. Jin tells him how it is. They have no manners. They came to another sect but didn't even greet a sect leader, and they were rude to his junior sister. That's why he did it. Naturally, it surprises them, and San, who is standing right outside of the infirmary, now hears Chaeseok scream at Jin. He did it just for that. It was already his victory the moment Namgung-san used the Imperial sword art. Why didn't he step down? Why did he agree to be stubborn and demand to continue the duel? Jin has a pretty simple answer. Their young junior disciples were watching. Even if his fingers had been cut off, the juniors would have seen the sword of the Taeeul Sect at a great warrior's throat. They must have felt the potential of their sect's martial art. Instead of thinking, if only we were born into the Namgung clan, they think that they can defeat that clan with their own swords. Isn't that better for everyone? The sect leader's eyes light up, and Chaseok calls it nonsense. They probably ran away in terror after seeing that. What if they had seen his fingers get cut off? Jin shrugs, saying that even if his message gets through to only 1 out of 100 disciples, and that disciple carries on the Taeeul Sect's martial arts in that spirit, losing a few fingers would be a pretty small price to pay. Chaseok's lips purse, and he turns around, calling it ridiculous and saying that Jin is still wet behind the ears, with clear tears in his eyes. He opens the door to the infirmary, only to be met by San, who is a little confused by the scruffy, teary-eyed man in front of him. He runs away like a girl with a broken heart, confusing San, who steps inside at the sect leader's invitation, and bows his head to Jin. The sect leader decides to let them go since they have unfinished business to discuss, and so they go back to the tea room, where San gives Jin the items he promised. He also wonders why he did something so reckless. Losing to the Namgung clan is nothing to be ashamed of. Jin tells him, losing to the Taeeul Sect is also nothing to be ashamed of, but San wonders if the Taeeul Sect was ever a sect of that caliber. Jin wonders, what is his standard for shame then? Has he not set an unfairly high standard based solely on the prestigious name and power of his clan? If the ultimate teachings of the Namgung clan are lost, and his sword art is erased, will losing to others finally become something he is not ashamed of? Just because a sect lacks powerful martial arts does not mean they don't have pride. San opens his mouth to say something, then closes it, then opens it again. Indeed, Jin risked his hand, which is as precious as life to a martial artist. From the beginning, San admits that Jin already won the duel of pride, then apologizes for the rudeness they have shown at the Taeeul Sect, and the shameful behavior they displayed in front of Jin. He hopes Jin will forgive them with his broad generosity. Jin smiles, satisfied, and salutes too. Since San has shown good faith and apologized, Jin will forget the past. San should forget any discourtesy this junior has shown as well, forging a new path forward for both of them. The afternoon sun descends, and the moon rises. As the adults talk about their day, the sect leader suggests something to the other two that shocks them, to give Jin the position of head disciple. Before all this, as they were drinking, Chaseok began to cry, wondering if they were not ashamed. Jin, a kid who is not even 20, did that for the Taeeul Sect, but they couldn't even do that much. Taesan told him to stop crying, but the sect leader agreed he was ashamed too. Taesan wondered why he was like this as well. They all know how hard he's worked for the sect. Even now, every single night at the Daehyun Hall training ground, isn't he researching the Lesser Heaven sword art to develop the Taeeul Sect's martial arts further? There is no need to feel ashamed or guilty, because everyone has already contributed in their own way. Chaseok wondered what he did. What contributions did he make that he's so proud? Taesan, with a very satisfied grin on his face, noted that he fathered Jin, completely confusing Chaseok. That's when the sect leader suggested they give Jin the position of head disciple. The two were shocked, and Chaseok believed it to be an excellent idea. If he becomes the head disciple, the other children will follow him even further, and he will get extra points for special admission as well. However, Taesan told him to relax, as they needed to think about the matter more carefully. The sect leader wondered what he was so worried about, and after a moment of silence, Taesan explained that he knew the Gyeorong Merchant Guild wanted the head disciple position. If Cheol-yong fails to become the head disciple and they hold a grudge, they might cause even more trouble than they do now. Chaseok wondered if he was really opposing his own son becoming the head disciple just because he was walking on eggshells around that merchant guild. Taesan asked what Chaseok would do if they didn't, and the Gyeorong Merchant Guild cut off their funding. In the face of starvation, loyalty and a sense of belonging mean nothing. If the Taeeul Sect cannot provide meals, most of their disciples won't even be able to eat one meal a day. Without the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's funding, how are they going to keep these children fed? The sect leader slammed his cup down and got up. If that is the only reason, then his decision remains unchanged. Jin put his own life on the line for them, for the pride of their children, and the honor of the sect. If Great Warrior San had not stopped his sword at the last second, to a martial artist, a hand is more precious than their life, right? If a child like him cannot become the head disciple to lead the sect, then who on earth could possibly lead them into a greater future? The sect leader also said he had found a way to fix their money problem. With the martial arts he had honed, he would work as an escort warrior. Chaseok believed that was a great idea, and said he would do it too. They should gather all the hallmasters and start an escort agency. Taesan gave in, and they clinked their cups, with Taesan saying he would be the one managing the money they made from the escort missions. Naturally, the next morning, when they told the guild this, the guild leader Yeon-seok was annoyed. They are really putting on quite a show, huh? He's told them time and again, the head disciple position belongs to his son. Does he really think the Gyeorong Merchant Guild is a joke, to think he'd repay their support with this nonsense? Jin arrives as he hears the commotion, wondering what is going on, and the sect leader tells the guild leader that he is mistaken. Choosing the head disciple is the sole authority of their sect. Jin wonders what is going on, and thinks of the head disciple title. It literally means the one recognized as the most outstanding among the sect's disciples, a position treated by disciples as rivaling the sect leader. The reason the Gyeorong Merchant Guild is obsessed with the head disciple position is because the head disciple gets bonus points in the Murim Academy special admission exam, a privilege of the 108 peaks. Since the head disciple position is usually given to the disciple who will lead a sect in the future, the disciples, including him, naturally expected the sect leader's daughter to become the head disciple. But before his regression, because of that sponsorship, Cheol-yong became the head disciple of the Taeeul Sect. Jin kind of enjoys these pigs squirming around, as he was already planning to make Hong the head disciple in this life, but for some reason, the sect leader has already changed his mind. Jin whispers to Hong, congratulating her on the advancement to head disciple, but she wonders what he is talking about. The sect leader said he was giving the head disciple position to Jin. That's why the leader of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild is throwing a fit. Jin is naturally very confused, as now that he thinks about it in this life, he is totally the perfect candidate for the head disciple. His thinking is cut off by the guild leader screaming, noting that he will make them pay for this. How dare they mock Yeonseok? They are just a beggar sect. Jin's eyes harden as he hears this, and intervenes with a sigh. Yeonseok keeps talking about sponsorships, but Jin is tired of a cliché like that. Yeonseok gets extremely mad, and tells them to listen carefully. Because of Jin's arrogant attitude, the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, as of this moment, is cutting off all sponsorship. A silence falls, not heavy or otherwise, and Jin just looks at Yeonseok with a pretty calm expression, wondering what he's waiting for. If he's done talking, he can leave. Wait, did Yeonseok really think that Jin would bow his head and beg for forgiveness? Jin is sure he told Yeonseok in the past, on the day Yeonseok grabbed him by the collar, that he would take responsibility for the Taeeul Sect. Yeonseok smiles but sweats the whole time, noting that Jin talks big, but how exactly is he going to take responsibility? Doesn't he know about the sect's lack of a source of income? Because of him, the Taeeul Sect will go back to starving and dressing like beggars. Even if he gets on his knees and begs now, he will never sponsor the sect again. Suddenly, someone else arrives and wonders, does that mean the position of the sponsor of the Taeeul Sect is now vacant? Yeonseok turns his head roughly and asks who dares to interrupt the leader of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, only to be shocked to see Wang Gyumsan. So waves at Jin, calling him brother, and Tai-san wonders what Gyumsan is doing here. That's the master of the Wanga Manor, one of the 3 wealthiest men in the world. Yeonseok wonders what he's doing, and Gyumsan slowly steps onto the platform. He is in a good mood today, as he came out with his daughter for the very first time in her life. He wanted to show her only good things, and let her hear only good things. But since there's been some bastard spewing bullshit like a pig, he would also like to take a look at his cowering face, to see what kind of bastard he is dealing with. Thank you for watching. See you next time.